Should say we just out of Yankton reporting wind gust of 70 miles per hour at 4:27, which is 5 minutes ago. So the strong winds have already reached the Yankton area. At the airport there, they had a wind gust of 71 miles per hour go about 10 minutes ago.
Okay, and I do want to bring up again as we talk about this tonight that we have more than one threat here. We've got wind that's coming into southeast KELOLAND. We also have a tornado watch in effect for the northeast, and you can now see extensions of these storms here, Scott, up toward Redfield. We've got new warnings there. Let's just bring up the regular reflectivity if we can here. And looking at the source here from basically here on south, Wessington Springs to Mitchell, there is a very strong line of storms right now going on there. And you can see also it looks like the extension down to Parkston and Scotland. So the whole line there is basically moving to the northeast, and we're pegging again wind speeds here basically running at about 65 miles per hour. So that means if you're just even a couple counties downstream, this is going to be arriving very quickly. There's that storm tracker mode right now. You can see there as we bring up those cities. And again, I want to bring up, let me see if I can bring this down here on the list a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to bring up, let's update this, and you can see there that Freeman 442, you can see Wakanda there at 441 on the storm tracker, and even in Sioux Falls, you know, looking at this particular setup right now, within the hour, that whole entire box is shown there. So it's a fast-moving situation. It's one of those situations where you're going to want to make sure you're ready to go as these winds approach, and that appears to be the main problem at this point. I am going to recenter the view out here a little bit, and we're going to actually do a lapse of the radar. I know we've got a warning out in Tripp County as well. I do want to at least verbally mention that storm there. Let's go to, yeah, now, Scott, you're just telling us about, what, a mile east of Vermilion, we have broken power poles now?
The report coming in from the Weather Service here, so some damaging wind gusts with this storm that we originally came in on with severe thunderstorm warnings. This is one of those situations where these will be the high-end warnings that come out from the Weather Service. So we'll give you that information with those wind speeds. I would say easily at least 80 miles per hour. There will be instances where we can get over 100 mile per hour wind gusts with these storms. And of course, it will do the damage, and we'll continue to follow that damage as these storms go upstream, continuing to move to the northeast. So Vermilion, one of those areas coming in with a report, 1 mile southeast, Vermilion, power poles being broken, 3-inch tree limbs already being broken with that storm too. So this is going into air that's into the low to middle 90s, and we've had a lot of humidity along with it. In fact, Brian, you're drawing out more or less the gust front with this. This is the leading edge. This is ahead of the heavy rain, the leading edge of the storm as it moves to the northeast. Yeah, that actually is actually sweeping out ahead of the main thunderstorm line. See, I can tell where that is right now. It's right there at Junction City. That's the turnoff on Interstate 29. That's a live sweep from our Beersford radar. So that's where your destructive winds are going through southern Union County. And if you follow that line, looks like Turkey Ridge right now. It's going right up Turkey Ridge, and then up to about Freeman is about the edge of that. So that's one segment. Again, that's going to be affecting folks in Turner, Lincoln County. Shortly, it's already southern Turner County, severe thunderstorm warning, and you can certainly see all the lightning is drawn there on Lightning Tracker. But it's mainly wind. That's the worst part of that. And then, of course, there's that destructive thunderstorm warning in Nebraska, although I will tell you that segment's already passed through there. It's zooming to the east, and very, very quickly. There's Mitchell, too. We want to include Davison County here. Severe thunderstorm warning until 5 for Davison County. Let's scan on radar here right now, looking just at some of these winds. And again, this is a pretty powerful look at radar. If we just pixel query some of these winds that we're getting, look at this. These numbers are coming in at radar height of 95 miles per hour, folks. That's what we're looking at the radar height. Now, we can analyze that, and I can tell you right off the radar screen, that's about a height of 2,000 to 3,000 feet off the surface. So we know the wind's there. It's just a matter of how much of that's coming down, and at least 70 miles per hour. But now I see we got a new report about Yankton, one south of Yankton, reporting thunderstorm damage, and they have multiple tree limbs down just a mile south of Yankton. That just came in 4:36 1 minute ago. Yeah, so we'll continue to follow this line of storm. In fact, Brian, if you can go over here, we've been looking at this through one of our products before, too, with a damaging wind product, able to go ahead and put that in motion as these storms do move through. This is showing us where we expect to see these damaging winds move through. Now, you can see it concentrating here across southeastern South Dakota, just to the southwest of Sioux Falls. It's saying 6 o'clock, but you know what? These storms are moving in a little quicker. And, Brian, if you go ahead and put a couple of pixel queries on that, we've already showed you what's going on in the upper layers of the atmosphere. Just a matter of transitioning these strong winds down to the surface. And even the model is suggesting that we could easily get these wind gusts to 65 miles per hour. Would not be surprised to see some of those numbers jump and get a little higher. We have some information here behind the scenes suggesting that we could see these wind gusts of over 100 miles per hour as these storms initially do move through. It's moving into air that is, well, there's a pixel query right now with 100 mile per hour winds. Again, this is at the more or less the level of the storm system as it is moving through. It's a matter of transitioning that down to the surface.
That's correct. That's the thing. We know that the storm has 100-mile-an-hour winds aloft. Semi blown over. Okay, this just came in 3 miles southeast of Meckling. This is Clay County Emergency Manager reporting that thunderstorm wind damage semi blown over 3 miles east-southeast of Meckling, South Dakota. So it is quickly moving in. If you are in, now this applies to Sioux Falls, it applies to Lincoln County, it applies to our friends in Northwest Iowa. This storm is moving very quickly. I expect the Weather Service will be issuing a new warning very shortly for the Sioux Falls metropolitan area. As this approaches, now's the time to get your things together. You're going to go to a place where you can basically stay away from windows and the potential for destructive winds, Jay, as these storms come through.
Yeah, the area we're watching right here is what happens is these lines of strong winds get blown, and you can kind of see the way it's curved right there. This is kind of like we say, kind of the apex of that little Boeing segment right there. We do have severe thunderstorm warnings all across that line. So everywhere you see red, that's where we have severe thunderstorms already occurring with the damaging winds. Damage reports are coming into us quite quickly. If anything, the storms are coming in quicker than we were anticipating by about an hour, being driven by very strong mid-level winds. We've already had a lot of reports of damage out of these, and it's just a matter of time before the Sioux Falls area is under this. So we would say you want to remove your lawn furniture, anything that could get blown around. We will expect to see very strong winds coming through the Sioux Falls area within the next hour or maybe a little bit more as the system makes its way into the region. And we will be seeing probably some more damaging areas of damaging winds, probably maybe even some power outages. So keep that in mind. They're doing the storm track for you. Given the current rate of speed, those storms coming into those particular areas that Brian's looking at right now. Latest severe thunderstorm warning with the potential for winds 80 miles an hour includes Lyon County, Iowa, Rock County, Minnesota, Clay, Hanson, Hutchinson, Lake, Lincoln in South Dakota, McCook Minor, Minnehaha, including the Sioux Falls area, Moody County, Turner County, South Dakota, all posted till 5:30 tonight. So in essence, everybody headed that line is where we're going to be seeing those warnings. And what they're looking at right now, just to show you, you're looking at the winds inside of the clouds. So this is the winds where you see bright greens that's moving right toward the radar at Sioux Falls Airport right now. And that is the strong wind that's pushing right into the Sioux Falls area right now.
Yeah, and we definitely see the signature there for these strong winds. I'm just kind of going through a couple of products here, so bear with me as I look. I'm just going to look for hail for a moment. Not much on the southern flank of this. There's probably some hail north of Mitchell. So the wind that's attached to that cell here, Woonsocket, Wessington Springs, some hail there. That could become a bigger problem through the evening. One other side note here, we've got to mention here quickly that we do have a tornado watch that is in effect here for much of northeast South Dakota. A separate function is going on there. I know, Jay, you're going to talk about that.
Yeah, it's I can't remember, maybe somebody can remind me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember a particularly dangerous situation watch issued in Sioux Falls before. Maybe one other time, but it's very rare that we have this because destruction is expected out of very strong winds, not necessarily tornadoes, but straight line winds, and that's why we have that watch posted to the Sioux Falls area until 10 o'clock tonight. Here's where the tornado watch is, and this is pretty typical when you have lines of thunderstorms like this. A lot of times kind of on the northern edge of that, you can get tornadoes that spin up, and so we do have that tornado watch, which includes here in Aberdeen, Watertown, Brookings, across the pier. That's until 10 o'clock tonight. But here are the threats we're looking at. We could see some wind gusts of 100 miles per hour or more. We've certainly seen at some altitude above the ground on live Doppler radar. We have been seeing winds approaching that speed. Also, there could be some pockets of hail, a few tornadoes, and pockets of heavy rain. But right now, the main concern is what's going on with those winds. And Brian and Scott are looking at those right now on KELOLAND live Doppler. There you go, Brian. What do you have over there?
Okay, so what I want to do right now, it is right now 4:43. We're about a quarter till the hour. I want to throw up the forecast for the Sioux Falls area within the hour, okay? And if we can do that. So this is looking at Futurecast. I'm going to zoom in here. Now, this is taking what's going on right now on radar and advancing it within the hour. So this is what we find. 75 to 100 mile an hour winds crossing into the Sioux Falls area. Again, at this point, let me see if I can bring up a couple of these things here. You can see those pixel queries. I'm going to take those off for the moment. And again, as you look at everything that is coming in, that feature, again, a very strong feature coming into the Sioux Falls area. Now, if you extrapolate, you look at this thing going out another hour or half an hour. See where that line is? Huron, Madison, Del Rapids, Canton, Sioux Center. It's moving down the line. I can peg all the way through that, and that's what I'm coming up with. That's a Futurecast update. Normally, I don't show that, but I did want to give you a heads up because
Brian, a report just came in.
107 mile an hour wind, now confirmed, 107 miles per hour, 2 miles northwest of Tripp.
Hutchinson County.
Hutchinson County. Now, let me show you where that's at. So now we know we have over 100 mile an hour winds coming through, and Tripp, we're going to take you out here. So that's back here. That means that this Boeing structure right here coming through Hutchinson County, Parkston and Minnow, is bulging out. It is creating, there's a rear inflow notch right there. That is creating the destructive wind that we are
Go ahead
now
and take
confirming.
the radar back a little bit, Brian. That report came in about 4:25 is when 107 mile per hour winds were reported Tripp. So you can see
425 right there.
Yep. You can see as the pushed in right behind that line of storms. So yeah, we are looking at wind gusts over 100 miles per hour for areas of southeastern South Dakota.
So what we've got to do in this particular situation, we got to remember with our live radar sweep, we're scanning here every 30 to 60 seconds on that Beersford radar. Now the wind's about ready to come up right almost to the radar tower in Beersford, but this is the wind as drawn in the red line. That's about where it's at.
Yep, it's ahead of, in other words, it's ahead of what you see there is typically we see raindrops, but this is shooting out ahead of it, being pushed from behind by that rear inflow jet you were just talking about.
Yeah, so lots of wind.
And it's making a beeline towards Sioux Falls. I would mention that you could tell it's been a hot and humid day. Right now, 93 degrees in downtown Sioux Falls, south wind at 28. Dew points are in the 60s. That's in the very humid territory, and that's why we have these thunderstorms that have flared up, and there's a ton of energy in the atmosphere, and that's why we're getting these very strong and destructive storms following that line coming toward the Sioux Falls area. Maybe you could do a storm track on it or something like that as well, Brian, or over
Yes.
there, if you would be so kind.
Let's just do that. We'll kind of regroup here a little bit. I know, folks, if you're just getting home from work and school, okay, so right now, the damaging wind from downtown Sioux Falls, we're going to estimate that just about coming into Parker. And I told Scott, I see the
Parker's down.
The electricity, yeah. Well, I'm not surprised. In fact, that's another product we're going to show here in just a second, this power outage map that we showed this morning. We're going to be able to keep up on all of that as things happen here this evening. I already see we've got power outages. It looks like Hutchinson County.
Can you explain that a little bit more, Brian?
Yeah, these are coming in live from the power companies. So as things go out, we'll be able to track you know, as they're reporting to us how many customers are out of power. So those blue county areas behind the line are the initial areas where we're seeing that. Yankton's not in yet, but I'm sure we've got a few down there. So I just want to mention that quickly as we look at the warning boxes. Now, Jay, you just mentioned let's maybe do a storm tracker. Okay?
Yeah, because that storm, as you said, about 20 miles from Sioux Falls where the leading edge of the gust front is. So, folks, you don't have much time if you're going to make preparations to bring in the lawn ornaments and things like that because it's coming pretty quick.
Yeah, okay, so let's do what we're going to put on TV here. We're going to draw the line. I know where the wind is right now, right along this line here. So this is going to take us out. It's pushing at least 70, you know, speed-wise, or at least in that 65 to 70 mile an hour range. So the first communities that come up, Canastota, 449. That's basically now. Chancellor, 451. Haywarden, 451. Lennox, 453. Let's now take another look at the Sioux Falls area. I'm going to go ahead and click a couple buttons, so bear with me on that. And we're going to start here with Lake Lorraine and the west side of Sioux Falls. And what we're coming up with here right now is basically within, let's say, right after 5 o'clock. Okay, that looks like that's where things are going. So Empire Mall, 503, Morris, Iowa, 504. We're counting down the line. Inwood, Iowa, 504. So you basically have about 10 to 15 minutes before this comes in. We can only, you know, at this point tell you what we can see on radar and then what we've had for sporadic reports. But what I can tell you is that on the radar height, when you look from Parkston to Parker, down to Mayfield, at the height of the radar beam, this is producing 100 mile an hour winds. And that's just the way, you know, we just know that that's happening, at least at that 2,000 foot level. And frankly, even into Parker now, let me do this for a moment. And again, we've lost communication with our live camera there. That's a 96 mile an hour wind measurement, and that's again looking at the radar height. That's not, you know, it's closer to the radar.
Yes,
But tornado warning just came in.
Okay, and that is now for Hanson Lake McCook Minor, and that is now that's just coming in. We're just going to let that come into the machine here.
There.
Near Emory, 21 miles east of Mitchell.
Okay.
It's right there.
And this is exactly what the Weather Service is now putting out. That's our couplet right here. This is Emory, again, looking at a storm capable of producing a tornado in the Emory area. If you are in Emory, you need to be in your basement. That storm is now moving north at 70 towards Spencer. It's also headed towards Salem. So we have now a tornadic circulation. Let me go back to
Brian, could you pop that one back on? I'd like to. Could you put the velocity back on there?
You bet.
I want to show one other thing. A lot of times we have a setup like this where you've got the bulging air. Here's where the winds are racing, the straight line winds. A lot of times you see it right on the northern end of that bulge, and that's where we have had a little bit of the circulation develop, and that's where we have the tornado warning in that area. And yeah, as Brian said, where you see the reds right next to the greens, that's where we have the suspected tornado warned area. Okay, Brian.
Yeah, okay, so here we go. We've got, again, this is the push of air coming in from Turner County. And again, right along this leading edge. I know you guys we're probably going to show the west side of Sioux Falls here shortly on our live cameras, but as this comes through, it's pretty likely that there's going to be power outages.
That's what we're looking at right now. You're looking into where the storm is coming from downtown Sioux Falls, looking to the southwest. That's where that line of thunderstorms is coming from. It will be here in the next few minutes, and you're just going to feel it blowing on through because it's right on the doorstep of Sioux Falls.
Yeah, and we are, again, continuing live coverage here tonight. Speaking of the tornado threat, I see Viper now is really honing in on that around Emory. You see those two circles there. So, and that's another thing, too. We've got to remember with a wall of wind coming through, you can and occasionally do get tornado spin-ups along the leading edge of that. Now, that's the most obvious one. I think right now, even Canastota, I kind of watch that. There may be a little bit of a notch in there that seems to be popping up. Sometimes this scenario happens very quickly. So, again, as we watch everything, I can tell you, and I'm going to do this for the moment as you're watching our live radar coverage tonight. This is our Beersford radar scan. It tells me right now, and I know it doesn't look like much, but it is right along here that the wind is picking up. So it's hitting Lennox right now. It's hitting Pumpkin Center. It's hitting It's already gone through Beersford. Worthing is next. T and the southwest side of Sioux Falls, the leading edge of the wind. And this again is our live scan. That's about 10 miles southwest of the Empire Mall. I know our live camera at 41st Street shows that shelf cloud.
Scott's looking at that right now. That's what, yeah, we call a shelf cloud a lot of times associated with very strong winds. It's right on the edge of Sioux Falls.
As you like to say, Jay, it's a wall of wind coming through, and we've had those wind gusts anywhere from near 90 miles per hour. That was a report in Gayville to over 100 miles per hour, and that was a report coming in, I believe, near Tripp earlier. So we know the history of this storm has wind gusts that could get up to 100 miles per hour and even a little more.
Yeah, and that's not, they're not, that 107 wasn't made up. That was from a Mesonet data collector, so that was an actual scientific instrument that came up with that.
Yeah,
but we can
there's
almost just watch this come right into Sioux Falls, Brian, on that live cam there. Let me go back to you real quick.
Yeah, we got one.
We've got to mention this. I'm now probing on some of that 117 at radar height coming in northern Turner County. Now, again, that's not necessarily at the surface, but we do know we've confirmed some winds of 107. Now, when you're talking that kind of wind, we're now in tornado-like damage that's widespread or coming through these counties and these areas. So now, this just jumped here. I'm going to show you the exact line of this coming through the Sioux Falls area. It is literally right now on the edge of T. It is coming in. Now we're getting...
Got a gust of 80 miles per hour recorded 3 miles north of Dalton in McCook County. That was from emergency management out in that neck of the woods.
Okay. You know, this is one of those things, as we look at this, Scott, it's one of those things where you don't need to be a meteorologist. That's a what do we call them? Big scary clouds?
Come on. But, you know, the thing about it, too, is with some of these storms moving through southeastern South Dakota, able to pick up a lot of dirt and dust because they've missed out on some of the recent rainfall. So you could also have a lot of that being a signature coming through with some of these live cams we're able to show.
Okay, I know we're focused on Sioux Falls. We've got to go to Huron now. We've got rotation going on. We have a tornado watch in effect for the Northeast. If you're watching us in Watertown, Aberdeen, Webster, Clark, Redfield, your situation is going to be a problem as well tonight. We're going to be watching these storms. I think that this one in particular right around Huron is now showing some rotation near Woolsey. It's a severe thunderstorm warning in that area, but please be advised that those vicinities also can receive some separate severe weather, and we will be carefully monitoring that. Tornado warning right now for Emory. I have to go back to that too here as we're just watching the intensity of that storm near Spencer, and it's coming up fast from the southwest. It looks like there is some rotation. I want to go to that rotation factor, and you know, guys, it's over Spencer, South Dakota right now. We're looking at a circulation there as of 5 minutes before the hour. And Salem, Montrose, again, all in the path of some very destructive winds there as well.
Can you let me leave that there a second, Brian? I want to explain what's going on. Green is winds at cloud level moving towards Sioux Falls, so moving in this direction. That red is winds that are circling around that, and that's why you have the circulation right here, right around the Emory area. That's why we have that tornado warning for that particular area, so it's a pretty evident signature going on, and what you're looking for especially is where you see the brighter colors next to the brighter colors, and that's right about there, and it's right, it's kind of on just coming into town from the interstate.
Yeah, and as we pan down the line, again, we've mentioned this wind, just tremendous amounts of wind here blowing through this whole area, at least at radar height. So these storms, one other product here that we can do quickly here, and I know I'm not going to spend much time on this, but I did want to do this volumetric, or in other words, we do a 3D picture of these storms. And one thing I'm going to tell you as we draw this picture here, now I'm going to tilt this in 3D, and then I'm going to slice this. Okay, so we're going to go right across the line there. But these storms are being fed by some cooling air on the back side here. And it looks to me like we've got several pockets here where the wind is basically just coming in and roaring in through these rear inflow jets, if you will, where, again, as we flatten out the view, this whole line, I mean, anywhere along that line, some very strong winds either are occurring or will occur as we unfold here within the hours. So again, the collection of warnings at hand, they go all the way from north of Redfield. You can start up the line here in Falk County, Spink County, Beetle County, We're going to go down the line. Sanborn, tornado warning now for Minor, tornado warning for McCook, severe thunderstorm warning, destructive winds moving into Sioux Falls within the half hour. Lincoln County, severe thunderstorm warning till 5:30. Northwest Iowa, Sioux County, Lyon County, Plymouth County. Large scale.
And now and see what it looks like down there, because that's where the storm is coming in from. We have had reports. This line of thunderstorms has created winds that were measured at 107 miles per hour a bit earlier. And this is 41st Street. This is the Empire Mall right on that side of 41st Street. And here is that wall of wind, and it is coming on in. If you have anything outside, you can move inside. Now be the time to do it, because that wall of wind is now coming into the city. Brian?
Okay, so we have that situation for Sioux Falls. We now have a new tornado warning just being issued for Beetle County. But what you're looking at into Sioux Falls right now is coming in as the most destructive line of storms we've seen in a long time, and this even includes the 2019 tornadoes. You need to be in your basement and be ready to go. This is coming through the city of Sioux Falls with widespread 80-plus mile-an-hour winds. Again, based on what we're seeing visually, that's confirming that. And again, we'll see how much we can hold on to this camera as this comes through. That's a look live downtown, panning down toward Harrisburg. You can obviously see the strong winds that are accelerating through Lincoln County as we speak.
It's picking up a lot of dirt. You can see the leading edge of it. It's just rolling it right over into the cloud.
Yeah, and obviously, let me see. I still have connections to, there it is, Harrisburg live. That's a wind event.
Look at the visibility. It's just dropped with all the dirt being brought in, and it's coming in. Just go ahead and leave it right there. You're going to see it sweep across the city.
Yeah, it's very strong. Again, there's a lot of wind with this, and as these reports still coming in, we have several of these destructive thunderstorm warning in effect for Sioux Falls. I do want to clarify what that means. Winds, 90-mile-an-hour winds indicated on the severe thunderstorm warning for the Sioux Falls
area. I think we just lost a bit of power. There's a power flash on the right-hand side of the screen there, so I think we just lost some power right where that, on the right-hand side of your screen. That's the leading edge. Oh, you can see it moving. That's how fast it's moving in.
Yeah, it's right through the city.
Yep.
And you can definitely see, as we're going to witness this live on TV, it's coming right into the city. And what you're seeing there is a very destructive storm. Again, as it comes through, it looks like it's in Midtown Sioux Falls right now.
Coming through Augustana College right there in the foreground. Now it's moving toward downtown. It's coming our way. You might want to zoom back just a little bit, because that's going to blow right through the live cam here in just a moment. It's heading at about 26th Street now, making its way toward 18th very quickly. Coming through, let's see, looks like USF, the hospital area on the right-hand side of your screen, Sanford Hospital. It's moving right toward downtown. Here's the leading edge of the winds, and you're going to feel them pick up. You better zoom up, because that sky cam, the live cam, is going to start shaking here real quick as this line of storms comes on through. And again, this is kind of ahead of where we've seen any rain. This is just plain wind coming through right now. Scott and Brian operating the camera right there. That's 13th and Phillips where our camera is, but here it comes right into downtown Sioux Falls. Very strong winds. Visibility diminished as a result of that.
Did you just see the power?
Power is going on right now, so we're losing power.
It's coming through the
central
city.
Sioux Falls right now.
Yep, and you can expect widespread power outages and destructive thunderstorm winds racing through the city as we speak. We're going to maintain this. I know we've got lost some power. We're going to try to maintain our signal as best we can. We're going to continue our coverage for those if we can still listen.
Sioux Falls, very strong winds. Visibility diminished as a result of that.
Did you just see the power?
Power is going on right now, so we're losing power.
It's coming through the
central
city.
Sioux Falls right now.
Yep, and you can expect widespread power outages and destructive thunderstorm winds racing through the city as we speak. We're going to maintain this. I know we've got
did.
Lost some to damaging wind. That seems to be the primary threat with all of this going on here tonight. And as we look at the latest winds, I want to just even go here into Minnehaha County, just on the west side of Sioux Falls right now. Let me peg this for you too here. And yeah, these numbers are definitely coming in 70 to 80 there. And you get out, you know, beyond that at the higher levels of the clouds, that's where it starts to go to 80 to 100. Damage reports. Let's focus on a couple things here, as I know we're bringing into view here the latest here from the Weather Service damage reports that have been coming in. I know we've had to reboot and we've had power surges, so as soon as we can communicate with that, we're going to relay that, but you can assume that widespread damage is occurring within this line as it accelerates to the northeast at about 65 to 70 miles per hour.
Yeah, if I can explain this a little bit, Brian. This is air moving toward the radar, which is here at Sioux Falls Airport, but now the line of winds has passed through the airport, so now that's starting to show up as red. I know it's two different colors, but essentially it's showing the same thing. Very strong winds, southwest to northeast, blowing that line of thunderstorms coming through. A wall of wind is the way we've been describing it. It's come in about an hour early. It's pushing now into southwest Minnesota, but we do expect to see destructive winds continue to come out of those cells. If you can show me the big picture, Brian, show where that's, because it's moving very, very quickly.
Yeah, and as we just regather our information, let's talk about this. We've got a line of severe thunderstorms. Right now, the leading edge of the line of wind extends from Lamar's, Iowa, to just a little west of Sioux Center. It crosses between Canton and Inwood. It goes right through Sioux Falls to Lyons, South Dakota. That's up into the northern part of Minnehaha County. Then the line extends all the way to the west to Orland, back to Howard, where we have now incorporated a tornado warning along that segment. And if you're in Madison, you are in a tornado warning with this. Then you can go up the line to Carthage and Huron. And then on that end, too, we have a tornado warning in effect for Beadle County until 5:45, as Doppler radar indicating a possible tornado there as well. So, again, this is quite the line of storms here late this afternoon.
I have a couple more reports here, Brian, coming in now. 90-mile-an-hour gusts just reported at Huron at the airport there. 78-mile-an-hour gusts measured on the south side of Sioux Falls. At the airport, we had a wind gust over 60 miles per hour right as that line came through and took the power out here at the station. Just about 3 minutes ago, that was registered. So that line continues to surge in a northwesterly direction. And you see those yellow boxes on your screen? That is where we have the wall of wind as it continues to move from southwest to northeast. You see the warnings and the watches posted at the bottom of your screen. Again, this is a continuation of what is called a particularly dangerous situation thunderstorm watch here in southeastern KELOLAND until 10 o'clock tonight. You see these areas that are filled in, that teal color there. That's where we do have the severe thunderstorm watch, the particularly dangerous situation severe thunderstorm watch. North of Highway 14, from Pierre across to Aberdeen to Watertown down to Brookings, that's where we have a tornado watch. It's in effect on the north side of this. We have had a couple of embedded tornadoes in that line, as you'd expect. Brian?
Okay, and I'm doing a couple things. I'm rebooting. We're going to pull up our live camera network here in just a moment, as we took quite a power hit here at the station. I want to see, the Beresford radar as it is functioning there. It's looking at these lines of storms again. It also tells us, again, the leading edge of the wind is actually way ahead of where you're seeing all the reds and the yellows in the storms. So it's actually more like this is the wall of wind. Downtown live cam is just off,
Yep.
so we're not going to be able to use that.
76-mile-an-hour wind report at Montrose.
Here's Harrisburg. Can we bring that one up?
Yeah, we
Jay?
can do that. Let me give you that right here. That's on the main feed, right? Okay.
Yeah, and that is now showing us, again, just some of the wind that is blown through here as we speak. And again, that's really looking at, again, a lot of dust in the air, I would say, initially
Yeah.
with this storm. But again, that's kind of the view there. And you can actually now see to the east as we look toward Lake Alvin. That's kind of that push of that wall of wind there as that moves to the east here this afternoon.
Is Falls Park back up or is that still down?
We will-
We microwave that one back, so it might. We lost 41st Street, so let's see if we can see anything
Yep,
from Falls
there it
Park.
is.
Okay, there we can see the rain has started. The rain coming in behind that line of the wall of wind, the line of thunderstorms. So we're getting some rain right now on the backside of those very gusty winds. Again, we had wind gusts measured in the south side of Sioux Falls right around 80 miles per hour a bit earlier. The latest severe thunderstorm, now we're getting a bunch of reports of damage. Let's see, the Mesonet Station 4 miles southeast of Mitchell just had a wind gust measured at 58 miles per hour. 5 miles west of Sioux Falls, thunderstorm wind damage at 5:03, 1-inch tree limbs broken. I think there's going to be a lot of tree limbs broken. 1-inch tree limbs broken 5 miles west of Sioux Falls, and shingles blown off roofs. So we're probably going to be seeing a lot of reports of that as well. The latest severe thunderstorm warning for winds at 90 miles an hour. They've extended that through Minnehaha County and Moody County, moving into southwest Minnesota. Another report out of Elk Point down on the southeastern tip of South Dakota. Thunderstorm wind damage, 3-inch limbs broken, power poles broken, and we saw the power being eliminated in the Sioux Falls area as the line of thunderstorms move in. Xcel now reporting 8,000 customers without power in central and southern Sioux Falls. So if you're able to watch us right now, perhaps you're hearing us on the radio, that's the latest information, 8,000 customers out, and that number is probably going to be growing here. Now, Brian is showing right now, this is a fairly new product we have. We're able to display where there are power outages and look for the blue counties.
Yeah, and these, again, are changing quickly. So, again, for Sioux Falls, they're not
Salem
in yet.
1,500 out, and
Okay.
that was just a report into KELOLAND News.
Yeah, and of course, a tornado warning is in effect for...
Yeah, we got to talk about that up by the Salem area. We haven't had any confirmation on that. We're getting in a lot of damage reports at the present time. No confirmation of the tornado. Morris, Iowa, reporting their wind. They received a wind gust of about 55 miles per hour. Thunderstorm warnings continue. Beetle, Kingsbury, Minor, Sanborn counties till 5:30. Of course, the Sioux Falls area, we remain on that severe thunderstorm warning till 6 o'clock. Latest report from Roswell and Minor counties, just penny-sized hail. So there's a little bit of hail along with this, but mainly the problem is that destructive wall of wind followed by the rain. What you see on KELOLAND line, what we're looking at right here is this is where the rain is. The winds are shooting out ahead of that. That's the gust front that is followed by the rain. And actually, if you give me back down, because now those red colors, it's air moving away from the radar. That's really kind of the leading edge of this thing since it's now past the radar. So we're talking up here. That's the leading edge of that thunderstorm right now. Kind of moving into, this is right along the, this is the Minnesota border right here by Jasper, Minnesota. That's the leading wall of wind, and it's moving into the areas like by the wind turbines now in southwest Minnesota.
Yeah, let's do a new storm tracker. I think that would be a good idea to do right now to kind of get our bearings straight as we look at southwest Minnesota. Pipestone, Edgerton, you can definitely see there too here as we overlay the features here on the maps tonight, that we definitely have additional areas here to the northeast. Okay, so again, this is not just Sioux Falls getting some wind. It's going to be a lot of communities dealing with that. So let me do a couple of quick items here.
Let me give you this while you're doing that, BK. The tornado warning for Lake McCook and Minor counties has been canceled. So
okay, that's good. And
all right,
Sioux Valley Energy reporting 16,000 customers in Minnehaha County out of power.
So we are out. Hey, Brian, pop up a Falls Park live cam there. Just seeing some more. We've got the, you saw a power flash just there. Xcel now reporting 10,000 customers without power in Minnehaha County, and that's what you're looking at right there. Lake Moody, Brookings County, all reporting power outages. So if you're able to see us or hear us right now, you're one of the fortunate ones, because this is a widespread power outage across southeastern South Dakota.
Madison, 97-mile-per-hour gust just reported in Madison.
Madison, okay, so on the lake, 97-mile-an-hour wind right there. Brian, now you're looking at where are we at Harrisburg, or no? We're going up to Madison.
We are in Harrisburg. That's a live view there. Now, Madison, I would show you, but the power's out.
Yep.
The live cam is out of power, and that is not a surprise given what we've been mentioning. So, yes, you're going to see again these areas of wind. And in fact, even for the Sioux Falls area, really now it's now a burst of rain coming through with these winds. And obviously here, as of the top of the hour, severe thunderstorms have been rolling through. Now we're 19 minutes after the hour, and you can see a large line from Sioux City, Iowa, all the way to Falkton, South Dakota. That is a solid line, folks, of embedded severe weather. So continue to watch this. Brookings, Watertown, Webster, Millbank, everybody in the Northeast, you have, in fact, a tornado watch in effect for much of northeastern KELOLAND this evening. We haven't had any tornado warnings, at least not at the moment. It looks like the ones that popped here a little while ago are now have been allowed to expire.
Yeah, they've been overtaken by that wall of wind. Adam, you've got a couple more wind gust reports for us?
Yeah, Colton's 81-mile-per-hour gust up that way. Baltic Mesonet also coming in 71 miles per hour as well.
All right, let me see what else we've got as far as if we can see what's on the backside of this. Of course, the rain now coming in following those thunderstorms. Not a lot to see on our live cam from Sioux Falls, but let me pan this down a little bit. We can see how much rain, how much wind we have here. So we do have, you can see that there are some houses that are dark there, and others do have some lights. So it's kind of spotty as far as the power outage is concerned. Now I'm moving across to southwestern Sioux Falls, and it looks like pretty widespread outages there in the central part of the city. Up on the upper left of your screen there, that's Sanford Hospital. The street you see down at the bottom is 18th Street at Minnesota. There is some lightning going through right now, so that's the problem for us there. Let's take a look at downtown Sioux Falls now. Looking at us from Falls Park, you can see that the rain is coming on through. We don't have the strong winds we had earlier. There was just a 58-mile-an-hour wind, I think, at Sioux Falls Airport, so there are still some gusty winds, but not like we're seeing on the leading edge of that. And so, Brian, you better show for the folks where that leading edge of that storm is right now.
You bet. Let's reanalyze the situation here as we are looking at KELOLAND Live Doppler HD. The thunderstorm is coming through Sioux Falls, at least the rain portion of it now, a little bit stronger than the wind that and the dust that we were witnessing earlier. And there it is, as I draw that little red line there. See, it's about to Laverne now, so that's the edge, if you will, of the strong gusty winds. It looks really intimidating when you see it visually. That dust component, I think, especially makes the clouds look extremely ominous. But again, a lot of turned up dust in this. I can imagine what that looks like right now if you're watching us in Sheldon, northwest Iowa. This has gone through, but it's again strong winds.
What it looks like. It looks like a dirt blizzard. Yeah. That's what it looked like when it came through Cuba. Adam, you've got some more reports in?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we touched upon this briefly. The tornado warning up for Beetle County was allowed to expire. Also starting to get some more reports of damage from 2 miles southwest of Sioux Falls out toward Hartford. 3-inch tree limbs have been snapped off. A lot of reports of power poles being snapped and broken out in that neck of the woods following the wind that had been moving on through out in that area.
Okay, so that's, again, and when you're talking about power poles being snapped, I mean, now we know we're at least at 80 to 100, somewhere in that range. I mean, that doesn't happen if you're in the 60 or 70 mile an hour range. So we know we've had pockets of that along the history of this. So, again, this is where we're trying to cover what's been happening, what is going to happen. I know we've shown southwest Minnesota, but folks upstream here, or downstream, if you will, from Brookings to Pipestone,
you're about ready to be there.
Yeah, let's
adjust that, please.
We'll bring up the storm tracker. Actually, I did a storm tracker just a moment ago for northwest Iowa, but here's the line. When we talk about Flandreau, and let's go up even to Tracy and Ballatin, there are some of the communities on the South Dakota side. Aurora 528, Brookings 528. if I click this button here, I think I can put up a couple more of these here. And I want to bring at least a few more of these into view here across Minnesota. So here we go. We'll go with Holland 540, Lake Benton 541, Leota 542, Rutten 546. History of 90 to 100 mile an hour winds in pockets. Not everywhere, but there's embedded pockets of that. So when you look at a big picture like this, again, you have to assume that, you know, within this, we're just going to continue to have these kind of conditions. We've had 90-degree weather ahead of this, and this storm is scooping all of that humid air and transitioning and turning it into a wall of wind is essentially what's happening here.
Can you zoom out a little bit and show the big picture? I did want to mention that they've just extended those severe thunderstorm warnings well into Minnesota and Iowa. In Iowa, Buena Vista County, Cherokee, Clay, Dickinson, Lyon, O'Brien, Osceola, Plymouth, Sioux County in Iowa, and in Minnesota, Jackson County, Nobles County, and Rock County. Those warnings are all posted until 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So this thing is moving very quickly. It's also going to be out of here very quickly, but in the meantime, we have a broad area of destructive wind. Again, what we're seeing here is really the rain. Now, that's what we have right now in Sioux Falls is the rain. The gust front, the leading edge of that wall of wind, shoots out ahead of that, and that's where we're getting air. There's very strong winds at cloud level. That momentum is being transferred to the ground, and that's why we're getting that rolling effect. Looks kind of like a, well, kind of the way I described it before, a dirt blizzard, and that's what that kind of looks like right on the leading edge of that thing. That's what we saw come through Sioux Falls right before we started losing the power and getting the power bumps and the power outages. So the latest report in now Madison Airport reporting a 97-mile-per-hour gust. That's in Madison, South Dakota. And in Crooks, an 89-mile-an-hour gust was reported there. So all we're doing is watching the numbers. The numbers have just been climbing from this destructive wall of wind as it makes its way through. Now, I did want to mention this in from the Storm Prediction Center. Brian's showing you. Now, again, look for where the brightest reds are. That's where the leading edge of that gust front is right now. But I thought I'd mention this. If you're in northeastern South Dakota, the tornado threat is expected to develop quickly over the next hour. Again, the tornado threat expected quickly to develop across northeastern South Dakota over the next hour and then spread northward with time and increase. So that's where we do have the tornado watch that's in effect. That area, it's Highway 14 to the north. In fact, I'm just going to kind of pop this up if you'll let me do this for just a second, Brian, and show you the area that we're looking at. Southeastern KELOLAND, the Sioux Falls area, that's where we have had those, PDS watch, the particularly dangerous situation watch, until 10 o'clock. That's this one right here. Now what the Storm Prediction Center is saying is that those conditions for the tornado threat north of Highway 14 are going to increase significantly in the next hour or so. So if you're in northeastern South Dakota and watching us there, you should be aware of that, that the tornado threat is increasing in northeastern South Dakota. Now, BK, you are looking at Redfield, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Redfield. We do want to make sure we include our audience in the Northeast. We're very well aware of additional storms that are going to be going on or are developing there. So we've got some live cams here to show you. Obviously, even as far north as Eureka, we'll be watching that. Back to Sioux Falls. The initial wind line has gone through. So, you know, depending on which neighborhood you're in, some areas have been okay. Some are, you know, definitely have some power outages. So, you know, one thing too, Jay, I was thinking about this is, you know, since we're early in the season, we don't have the trees fully leafed out. That helps a lot.
That might be a good thing, yeah.
And that's one thing, you know, if it was August or July, we wouldn't have that. But, you know, we're kind of scouring around town. When we were witnessing this at 5 o'clock, we saw several power flashes going on across the city. So there are several customers. Excel says about 8,000 customers without power in central and southern Sioux Falls.
I'm sure that number is up significantly.
Yeah, and that's something we're tabulating as we speak. We've got news crews working on any of these damage reports. But again, you can see across the city, that's kind of the layout. So obviously, we're going to continue our emergency severe weather coverage. There's Harrisburg Live. And yes, and I'm hearing from our producer, we do have crews in the field that are going to be reporting to us live with more on the storm damage.
New
and
tornado warning.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you on
warning.
that one. This is for Clark and Spink County. This is moving to the north at 35 miles per hour. Radar indicated rotation. This is from Tulare toward the Hillside Colony. Again, north at 35 miles per hour. This is for portions of Clark and Spink County.
Let's go find that one there.
Yep, and you know, looking at this, I will tell you, and I was just noticing that too on that Redfield camera.
We need to put our cities back on here.
Yep, and we'll let me go to the other machine, the live camera network too. Here you can see Redfield. Look at this, Jay. Can we show Redfield live?
Let's go back to Redfield.
Okay, yeah, that wind is really cranking through Redfield now. I can see in the Main Street area, you can see the sheets of rain moving there. Obviously, visibility is very tough, so if there is an embedded tornado within that storm, it's going to be pretty tough to see that. So, again, we would just encourage you to take your tornado shelter. Go ahead and take those precautions as we speak with that storm.
Are you on the other machine there, Brian?
Yep, I can head over here. Yep, let's go ahead and take a look at that. And Redfield is technically there. You can see as the machine is catching up here, we're looking at, again, a line of solid thunderstorms from Faulkton. Probably that Faulkton cell is actually more of a supercell there, isn't it? And again, as we watch all of these communities popping up, there's Millette. You're not in the worst of that yet, but Redfield to Tulare, really, that's just on the highway right now. Again, looking at the conditions as we zoom into Redfield. If you're in Redfield, you need to be into your tornado shelter as this situation unfolds here tonight. I know that, Adam, you're keeping a close eye on the latest information on that Spink County storm.
Yeah, Redfield, Dolan, Frankfort, within the next 15 minutes, the storm's going to be headed your way. So as Brian just said, you need to get into your basement or your tornado safe space immediately. These storms have been moving on up at about 35 to 40 miles per hour. Digging another damage report that just came in, apparently down toward Dante, Charles Mix County, 80-foot by 200-foot building has only one wall standing after the gusts that went on through there. Another 42 by 60-foot building, one wall remaining. Numerous trees have been uprooted down that way.
Well, 69-mile-an-hour gust. So we had damage in Dante. We have the in Brookings a gust of 69 knots. So that's well over 70 miles an hour.
And 81 in Colton.
81-mile-an-hour gust in Colton, near the Sioux Falls area. So we still are getting some pretty strong winds out of that. Brian, you're looking at the winds within the cloud level, and those arrows show you the direction of movement to that line of thunderstorms.
Yes, and we've got a lot of things going on, folks, so I apologize if we're just throwing a lot of information out here quickly, but it appears that tonight, this situation, obviously, we're getting damage. We're expecting more. And as we, again, look down the line here, I'm going to start our coverage here in this segment looking at northwest Iowa. So as we speak, line of thunderstorm winds, if we zoom into Little Rock, Ashton, Iowa, that's the edge of the wind. I can follow that up to Magnolia, Minnesota, Hardwick, Kenneth. You're right on the edge. Edgerton is on the edge of that as well. Pipestone, it is blowing through Pipestone as we speak. We can go up to Elkton. That's also another spot we're going to find right on the edge of the red colors.
Where he said the brighter reds, that's what he's looking at. That's the leading edge. That's the wall of wind we're talking about right there. Look for those brighter reds. That's the air that's moving away from the radar at the fastest speed. So that's where the surge is going on in the line of thunderstorms.
Yeah, and again, we can probe some of these numbers here. Obviously, some of these, well, there's one, for example, you know, at radar height. I mean, I'm still getting winds raking through these clouds at 90 to 100. So when we say that on TV, we're talking about, we know the wind is there. It's a matter of at what points does that wind root down, spills down, and basically hits the ground level. And that's happening in pockets. 97-mile-an-hour wind gust reported at Madison, South Dakota Airport, Lake County.
79 miles per hour also at Brookings Airport that just came on through.
And I'm showing you Redfield right now. You can see the gusty winds pushing the raindrops along Main Street there. So this is a big system affecting much of eastern KELOLAND, and that trend is going to continue. For those of you just joining us, here's the situation we have. We have a tornado watch for areas along and north of Highway 14, including Pierre, Huron, Brookings. We just had very strong winds reported at Brookings and at Madison. This red area, that's where we have that tornado warning that Brian was just talking about. Here, the area in blue, including Sioux Falls, or the area in teal, I should say, we have a thunderstorm watch, but it was a rare, particularly dangerous situation. Thunderstorm watch was issued very rare, especially in this area, and that's until 10 o'clock tonight for that wall of wind out of the line of thunderstorms coming up out of Nebraska. We could have some hail. We've had some reports of small hail, but more than anything, the winds, the latest, as you just heard in Madison, had a thunderstorm gust that was measured at the airport of 97 miles per hour and 79-mile-an-hour wind gust reported at the airport in Brookings. This is a big wall of thunderstorms that's making its way on through, and there's going to be more coming in later tonight, coming in out of Nebraska, moving to northwest Iowa. So this is going to be a fairly long-lived event here in the eastern part of KELOLAND. I'm going to pop you back on over there, Adam, and the number 2 machine, if you can show us, the leading edge of those storms.
All right, leading edge of the storms. This is over toward the Brookings area. We'll move this back over to reflectivity, and right there, you can draw right from south of Esteline, moving through Elkton, Pipestone, Edgerton, just moving through east of Laverne. There's the leading edge of all that wind, and there's the update from the radar news scan that just came in. So let's redraw that line a little bit further to the east of Pipestone, through Edgerton as we speak, moving along I-90, about ready to head out toward Worthington within the next about 15 or so minutes. But there's the leading edge. Brookings already getting in on a lot of that wind, not to mention some very, very heavy rain right now. And we just also have now a new tornado warning that just came up. This is for Clark and Coddington counties until 6 p.m. this evening. Radar indicated rotation. This is 12 miles south of Clark, moving north at 45 miles per hour. This includes the Clark and the Naples area as well. So we'll zoom out a little bit more, switch over to the Aberdeen radar, and we can get roughly where this warning is going to be indicated for you guys. This is, again, for portions of Clark and Coddington County, right around this neck of the woods right here. We can see a little bit of where we're trying to get a little bit of that rotation, just a little bit south of Clark itself.
Yep, and that storm moving kind of in a northerly direction, as you see there with that arrow. This is to the southwest of Watertown. Watertown's over here, so it's kind of on the western part of Coddington County. It's lifting in a northerly direction. That's where the spin is right now. So, yeah, now they had been anticipating that the tornadic situation would evolve as those storms move north of Highway 14, the northern half of South Dakota, and now that is, in fact, occurring. And I know we have a lot of colors here, folks, and we apologize for that. Our systems did get reset. We had the power outages as the storm came through Sioux Falls. Now we're starting to get some of those back, and Brian, I think you've got some street-by-street mapping there for us.
Yeah, this is mapping. This is the circulation that's triggering that tornado warning. It is right now just northwest of Willow Lake. Obviously, as fast as this is moving, 6 miles northwest of Willow Lake, but you can quickly see how, with the speed of these storms tonight, if you are in Henry, if you are in Clark or Garden City, you're in the tornado warning, and it's, again, a cell that's moving very quickly there to the north as of the present moment. And also extreme western Coddington County included with that, too. That line, though, boy, I tell you what, if you look at Lake Norton and you look at Bryant, this is a sharp line of wind. And I'll draw it right there with the telestrator, again, kind of watching that tonight. These features have had a history at times producing all the way to the highest number I have found tonight is down there in Douglas County, I believe, at 107 miles per hour, but 80, 90, pretty common, or at least scattered throughout this line. So as this comes over for folks downstream that haven't had it yet, Tyler, Minnesota, Esteline, you're on the edge, Clear Lake. I would prepare there, too, for some very strong, damaging winds. And our crews are working on all of the reports here that are coming in from the Sioux Falls area. So, again, we will continue to relay those reports. But obviously, Sioux Falls now this is fast. Moves in, moves out. This started at 5 o'clock, and it's 5:37.
Yeah, we get that secondary line, which is starting to, another warning has been issued for that secondary box right there, kind of south of the Sioux Falls area. It could be some strong winds, the back side of that, Brian. Kind of, it looks like a little wake low developing back there on the back side of that.
There's certainly some features in there we're watching. Again, the thinking is this initial line blows through within the hour. So for folks in southwest Minnesota, Tracy and Marshall, and up here toward Watertown, again, this will continue to unfold for you folks. I do think that these tornado warnings, we've got to go back to that. Spate County, I'm going to zoom in, and we're actually going to firm up the radar view here for a moment. So you can see Redfield, definitely heavy rain occurring. We've been keeping an eye on the corner of our screen here of the live feed from Redfield. So far, it looks like just kind of rainy there in town. But certainly to the southwest, there's probably even a little bit of hail. Let me take a look at that. We haven't shown that for a little while, guys, as we're looking at any hail. But probably some there with that Willow Lake cell in the southern part of Clark County. That's a little white feature there on the center part of your TV screen. The rest of that line, by and large, not a lot of hail. We haven't heard very much of that, so that's, I guess, one positive. Although, you know, you look back to Oneida, and there's another cell out there that's developed. It's not severe, but we'll keep watching anything that does pop up, even behind the main line here tonight. But again, all of this severe weather is moving to the northeast very quickly. Most of the storm cells are moving northeast at anywhere from 40 to 60 miles per hour. So when we entertain those kind of wind speeds here tonight, the storm tracker, KELOLAND live Doppler HD, the numbers we're about to show you here, again, popping up Hayti at 542, Clark 543, so obviously within 5 to 10 minutes. And then you've got Esteline there at 545. So it is a busy weather night here across the area. The latest here as we bring up the coverage this evening, again, all the dots on your screen represent all of the damage reports, and we're collecting a lot of these here. I wanted to click on one of these here, and again, was the dust was on the prairie with this initially. That was one of the reports there out of Beersford. You can see Dolton, 80-mile-an-hour winds. Hartford area, thunderstorm damage with power poles down. Also the west side of Sioux Falls, thunderstorm wind damage reported. Even into the middle of Sioux Falls, we've had thunderstorm wind damage. And several of these reflecting anywhere. There's a 70-mile-an-hour gust in Baltic, 81 in Colton, and then down here west of Yankton, probably some of the worst of that initial wind. Dante there reporting, of course, some structures, it sounded like some outbuildings were really damaged or even destroyed there too.
Yeah, beginning some extra wind reports coming out of a lot of different places. Recent gusts reported anywhere between 61 and 70 miles per hour from Sioux County up to Sheldon, Laverne, Madison, Sioux Falls with a gust of 78 miles per hour a little bit earlier. Sheldon also coming in a wind gust of about 67 miles per hour. The secondary area that you had just mentioned, Brian and Jay, still seeing gusts upward of 65 miles per hour going through Sioux Falls on that back edge system that's going through as we speak.
Yeah, and that's, again, making it tough to, obviously, if you're watching us tonight, we'd encourage you just to hang tight for a while, let this whole complex kind of roll through as we are dealing with some strong winds behind or kind of following up on the backside of this very organized line of thunderstorms tonight.
Yeah, and it has come through pretty much as expected, but ahead of schedule, pushed along by very strong winds at cloud level. Again, it's not even 6 o'clock. We've already seen the first gusts come through the Sioux Falls area, now moving to southwest Minnesota. Now as it moves to the north into northeastern South Dakota, there the environment a little bit more favorable for rotating thunderstorms, and that's why we do have the tornado watch that is posted for that area. That's in effect until 10 o'clock tonight. This is a tornado watch till 10 p.m. Here are the two warnings we have right now to the southwest of the Watertown area. Tornado watch is posted until 10 o'clock tonight, and now Adam says we have a new one. If you can give us the information there.
Yep. New warning, again, Clark and Cottington County. This is this new warning is going to be kind of in the same vicinity of the first one. This is, again, for radar indicated rotation. This is for storms producing, or capable, rather, of producing both tornadoes and straight line wind damage over Clark. And this is going to continue to move on up to the north at 50 miles per hour. So areas up in that way. Again, Garden City, Hillcrest, Bradley, Crocker, all within the next about 10 to 20 minutes. This is going to be heading your way.
Where'd you say this was? Western Coddington County?
This is northern Clark and northwestern Coddington.
Okay. This is just kind of a product that kind of puts the velocity, the wind data from the radars together, and those are some of the areas it's looking at for a little bit of spin in the atmosphere. It's not real clear for us because we have so much going on at the present time. There is a lot of what we call wind shear, but you can see the way the winds have dealt, pretty widespread event. That's why we say that sometimes these walls of wind actually are more dangerous than a tornado because they just affect such a wide, broad area. And that's the line right now we're still looking at as far as any kind of wall of wind type situations right through that area, moving into Coddington County. And of course, Adam was just telling you about the tornado warning we did have posted for parts of Coddington County and the Watertown, not Watertown area, but the western part of Coddington County, which is a county that Watertown is in. Also, you mentioned Haytie area. Some of those areas getting the strong winds. And right around Clark, we do have a little bit of a signature, maybe a little bit of spin going on in that storm around there. So just to let you know, we are far from being done with this thing. The watches are posted till 10 o'clock, the tornado watch. But you see all those red boxes, Watertown to the west, those are areas of suspected tornadoes. And where we don't have the tornadoes, we have the broad, widespread wall of destructive winds, which continues to move in a northerly direction. We haven't seen much in the way of large hail, I must say, looking at that map there. I haven't seen much of that. We have seen a few tornado warnings. We don't have confirmation of any damage from tornadoes. Certainly lots and lots of straight line wind damage all over KELOLAND, as evidenced by the fact we have had some widespread power outages. Yep. In fact, I'm going to ask Adam to look that up. We have a map that compiles all of those. So that is going to be an issue for us. We're going to be cleaning up for quite a while.
All right, so there is, I got the map up right now for all
okay,
the
let me show that
real
quickly. Hold on a second. There you go, Adam.
All right, so this is by county. We'll do a couple of little pixel queries here. Minnehaha County reporting upward of 8,000 without power. Out toward Mitchell, a couple of hundred. 1,000 in areas just west of Lenox. Another 1,000 in McCook County. You're seeing all those four-digit numbers coming up even toward northeastern Nebraska as well. We're starting to see this populate more and more as the storm continues to move on through. Now, that's just by total number. We can also do it by percentage. You can see where we have the higher percentage of people without power. Out toward Chamberlain, almost 65% of the county reported without power. In McCook County, 53% of the county reported without power when you see those darker shades of red.
Now, how about Minnehaha County? What percentage do we have?
8.5%.
Okay, so it's kind of spotty throughout the Sioux Falls area. Brian, you have a little bit of something to show us as well.
Yeah, that's a picture from one of our staffers here at KELOLAND Media Group reporting. This is from the Parkston area. This was before 5. Mm-hmm. I got this in, and again,
I bet it was just before 5 too.
Yeah, and obviously they have had significant wind damage out there. Grain elevator reporting some of the bins, grain bins have been blown in and is severely damaged. Now, whether or not that what you're looking at there, that probably, looking at the wind, obviously there with the dust. It can be confusing. Are we seeing a tornado there or not? We've had tornado-like winds. I mean, that's been the end result here tonight is a lot of storms around with a tremendous amount of wind. And again, that's just a picture I wanted to show quickly here tonight. And we'll go back to
let's go back to Adam and take a look at those tornado-warned areas. Do you have the warnings popped up on that display there?
Yeah, unfortunately, though, this computer has been behind on the warnings. It's not showing where any of the tornado warnings are, but I can at least kind of circle where we are getting those areas of tornado warnings in the area. So we're talking about Clark, toward Henry, where we have had areas of, at bare minimum, radar-indicated rotation up in that neck of the woods. We'll move up a little bit further to the north and take off the telestrator. We're talking about Garden City, Bradley. You guys are in this tornado warning as well. Crocker, Elrod, the northeastern portion of Clark County, and then southwestern Cottington County. Again, if you are in the Henry area, if you are a little bit west of Watertown as well, you guys need to seek shelter immediately as you get up into that particular neck of the woods. So again, we're talking about right around here. I'm just going to at least circle it to give some kind of ballpark estimation of where we're getting a lot of this rain and a lot of this severe wind as well, right along this line from Clark, just about north and west of Haytime, moving to the north by northeast.
Okay, just a moment to recap some damage and some other things we need to do in the public interest. No travel is advised in the city of Sioux Falls because of downed large trees and live power lines, according to Sioux Falls Fire and Rescue. In the city of Springfield, the mayor has confirmed there's no power in town, multiple trees down. Obviously, other communities are involved here. I just wanted to mention a couple of these. Also, we have a report from Jen McCowan, who counted 14 semi-trucks overturned, 14 of them, on Interstate 90 between Sioux Falls and Mitchell. So, again, that is in the history of these storms. Just to let you know, folks that are not in this yet, but it's coming your way, destructive line of thunderstorms impending into Castlewood, Tyler, Minnesota, Marshall, Minnesota, now included in this severe thunderstorm warning. Basically, that entire line that extends from northwest Iowa. And I saw several reports, even Little Rock showed up here a little bit ago, of some strong winds there. And then, of course, all the damage reports. I've got now another 82-mile-an-hour wind gust was reported near Centerville. 90-mile-an-hour winds were reported in Flandreau. The list goes on and on and on, and it's a very long list of reports tonight. So, again, unfortunately, that's been the reality with this line of storms. I'm hearing Huron, too. We've got numerous pine trees have been uprooted in the Huron area, and power's out across the southern part of the city of Huron tonight.
Let me show you what you're seeing here, because there's a lot going on, so let's try and simplify it. This little red line from west of Aberdeen down through areas north of Brookings and down into Lamar's, Iowa, that's the leading edge of this wall of wind. It's been lifting to the northeast over the past several hours, bringing destructive winds with it. We talked about the wall of wind scenario, and that is what is occurring. The flashing yellow boxes where we have severe thunderstorm warnings, which is essentially everywhere along and ahead of that line of thunderstorms as it moves to the north, because that's where we've seen most of the destructive wind reports. The damage reports have been occurring along with that red line, kind of the leading edge of it. That's why the warnings are posted out ahead of that. We do have a couple of areas where we have tornado warn cells, and as Adam was talking, kind of right around the Clark area, the western part of Cottington County. Those are lifting in a northerly direction. This whole thing's kind of lifting it to the north, and as that trend continues, that's what we're going to be seeing. Do you have any reports that they got anything out of that for us, as far as any confirmation?
No, I don't have anything in terms of confirmation. The only thing I've been seeing is that they're still keeping the radar indicated rotation verbiage with this line, now located near Frankfort to Raymond. Been picking up speed now, moving up to the north at 50 miles per hour. So if you're in the Turton area, again, north of 50, this is still for portions of northwestern Clark, east and east central Spink counties. This will stay in place for about another 10 minutes until 6 p.m. But no reports of damage from what I have been seeing, at least from this particular storm. But I am seeing something from 6 miles east-northeast of Winfred, Lake County. We've been getting
live from KELOLAND Media Group. KELOLAND News at 6.
Well, good evening. We are getting reports of widespread damage all across southeastern KELOLAND. Viewers are sending us pictures of the dangerous storms in their area. We've got power lines down. We have trees and branches on the ground. We've also received pictures of the scary storm clouds that entered into KELOLAND. One viewer counted at least 14 overturned semis between Mitchell and Sioux Falls on I-90, and flights have been diverted from the Sioux Falls airport. We're going to bring you live coverage in just a moment, but first let's head it back over to Chief Meteorologist Jay Trobec in the Storm Center.
All right, Don, what we want to take a look at is what's going on in the area around Watertown right now. Here's a live view, live cam in downtown Watertown. You can see that the storm has just entered that area. Watertown and parts parts of Cottington County under a tornado warning at the moment. We have seen circulation on radar. You do see the storm now coming into downtown Watertown, kind of from the southwest is the way it's occurred. There's some rain coming through, but if you look at those trees, lots and lots of wind as those thunderstorms do come through. Let's take a look at the current picture on radar, and you'll be able to see what's going on right around Watertown. BK, maybe you want to explain exactly what you can see here.
Yeah, so one thing, too, to clarify, the tornado warning is now flashing in the pink box. That's because we have a tornado confirmed on the ground with this storm that originated near Castlewood. We have damage there. And again, that means that this line of wind moving to the north. Florence, you're in the path of this, too. We're just, as we explain the colors, the green, this little line I'm just drawing in right now, basically that's where the winds are picking up. So you think of that as the main gust front, and embedded within that, again, we've had to highlight these tornado risks tonight. The extension of severe thunderstorm warnings now include Aberdeen and Brown County. We want to bring you folks up to speed too as we're watching storms impending there. Webster, not quite yet, but also we're watching you, and it looks like this line goes all the way down into southwest Minnesota. We continue with a number of severe thunderstorm warnings from Marshall to Slayton to Worthington. So embedded within this line, 80-mile-an-hour winds are still quite likely, and we've been tracking several of these reports here throughout the evening as this line moves through. I do want to quickly mention, too, this Brown County storm could additionally have some more rotation with it. It's not a tornado warning at this point, but again, we'll watch that. The worst of that appears to be Watertown. And again, I do want to just go right back to that Watertown vicinity, Jay. Let's
go back to that live cam view. It looks like we might be about to lose the live cam, as we can see lots of power flashes going on in that area. Lots of lightning coming through. This is part of that tornado warn cell. Watertown is included in that latest warning. And since this is a storm that has a previous history of producing a tornado down around Castlewood, that's why it is of particular concern, because, as we always say, a storm that has produced a tornado is the most likely to produce another tornado.
And speaking of which, we do have a new warning in place. Southeastern Day, northeastern Clark, northwestern Cottington counties until 6:30 p.m. They're using radar indicated rotation verbiage with this new warning. This is along the line near Garden City, 13 miles northeast of Clark, moving north at 55 miles per hour. Wallace, Swan Lake, Antelope Lake, all within the next about 3 to 15 minutes. This is going to be headed your way.
And we do have quarter-size hail in Huron, along with very strong winds. And we have been trying to show our Parker live cam. We lost it. Now reports of widespread thunderstorm damage, numerous trees knocked down by the wind, blocking many streets in Parker. That's in Turner County, southwest of Sioux Falls. Many streets are blocked. Power is out most places in town, especially the southwest part of Parker. So that's what's going on south of Sioux Falls. We're looking at the northern edge, the advancing edge, if you will, of this wall of wind as it continues to move to the north. It's a little crowded on your screen, just to let you know what you're looking at. The flashing yellows are the severe thunderstorm warnings. You're also seeing those at the bottom of your screen. That's where we have severe thunderstorm warnings. The red boxes are where we have the embedded tornado warnings. And this one here, the Watertown one, this one is the one that has the history of producing the tornado down near Castlewood, which is right down there. And that is why that cell, as it moves to the north, is of particular concern, because it does have a history of producing tornadoes.
New tornado warning now, speaking of which, this is down toward Minnesota, Big Stone County, along with Cottington, Dual, Grant, and Roberts. I'll get a little bit more specific on that. South Central Big Stone County in Minnesota, Northern Dual, Southeastern Roberts, Grant County, and Eastern Cottington until 6:30 p.m. Again, radar indicated rotation with the verbiage here. This is along that line extending near Kransburg to near Turnerville. This is moving north at 80 miles per hour. So if you are in Millbank, this is going to be up your way within the next 15 minutes, for example.
All right, and that line of thunderstorms continues to lift to the north with those embedded tornadoes. I just want to step back just a moment and show you what we've been looking at for the last several hours. This is a line of thunderstorms that actually started down in Nebraska and moved to the north. It came our way as a wall of wind this afternoon out in Nebraska, moving very quickly to the northeast. And now, as you see, it has grown into a big, long line of thunderstorms. Lots of severe weather weather along with it. And, of course, the embedded tornadoes on the northern edge of that storm, now including the Watertown area. And, BK, let me go back to you and see what's going on the Watertown live cam.
Yeah, lots and lots of wind. We can attest to that this evening. Obviously, as these winds have been coming through, we're combing through a lot of pictures. I was just sent video from Augustana. Just had a friend of mine sending me, and there's some pretty big trees uprooted there. We're going to have a lot of that. That's going to come in maybe a little later. You do need to know, if you're still in the path of these, that the history of the storm suggests that there are pockets of anywhere from 70 to 80, all the way up to well over 100-mile-an-hour winds earlier in these storms.
All right, that's what's going on now. We're going to get right back to coverage in just a second. But first, let's go over to KELOLAND's Don Jorgensen, who has some other information.
All right, thanks a lot, Jay. And be sure to break in if you need to. Northwestern Energy is reporting widespread power outages. Here is a look at the outage map on its website. Every one of those triangles represents power outages of some sort. They stretch from Yankton all the way to Huron, so thousands of customers without electricity right now. And is also reporting more than 12,000 customers who are without power right now. All right, let's go to KELOLAND's Kelly Volk, where she is in the town of Hartford. Kelly, what do you see?
Yeah, Don, I'm at the Coffee Cup gas station that's just off I-90, and it's a rough scene here right now. I'm going to step out of the way here so you can get a closer look at the convenience store part of the gas station. We have some windows blown out. The glass doors on the entrance are damaged. I've also seen some vehicles that are missing windows, so they took a hit from the storm as well. Now we're going to swing over. We're just going to wait for this semi to get out of the way and drive by. But you can see we have a FedEx truck here, and one of the trailers is tipped over. And that's not an uncommon sight tonight. Just in our short drive from Sioux Falls to Hartford, we saw at least 2 overturned semis. We saw what appeared to be a camper, very damaged. So there's a lot going on here tonight. Probably best to stay where you are and give emergency crews some time and some space to work. We also see a lot of flashing lights out tonight. They're really busy. For now, reporting live in Hartford, Kelly Volk, KELOLAND News.
All right, thanks a lot, Kelly. As we reported earlier, at least 14 semis were overturned between Sioux Falls and Mitchell on Interstate 90. All right, let's go live now to KELOLAND's Lauren Solik. She joins us now from McKinnon Park with damage due to the strong wind. Lauren?
Hey, Don. Well, I'm not quite at McKinnon Park yet. I'm at Campus Park. We'll be going there in a little bit. But right now, there's a lot of downed branches in the area along South Norton Avenue. And we've also seen a large tree that has fallen on top of a car in this area. And as we were driving here a half hour ago, street lights were going out. I'm sure they might be probably back on now. But there's a lot of traffic getting over here that cops are having to direct away from South Norton Avenue. So try to avoid this area if you can. And we'll keep you updated as we continue our storm damage coverage. Live near Campus Park in Sioux Falls, Lauren Solik, KELOLAND News.
All right, thanks a lot, Lauren. Lots of reports of trees down in Sioux Falls. If you safely take any videos or pictures of the storms in your area, you can email them to us at YouShare. You can also share them with us on Twitter and Facebook. All right, let's get an update on this storm now with Chief Meteorologist Jay Trobec.
All right, Donna, let's go to Brian Karstens, who has a scene from Augustana College. Those are big trees, Brian.
Obviously, looking at the Augie campus here, you can see big trees uprooted here. Again, this was a friend of mine that just sent this in a couple minutes ago. And again, I know that there are some students looking at that. Obviously, to make sure everybody is safe, if there's power lines down, you've got to be careful. That's also the situation tonight. You never, treat every power line as if it's live. And obviously, these trees are uprooted in several locations. This is just one example of that. And numerous reports are going to come in. But we do need to go back to...
Let's go back to Watertown. Go back to your live cam view on that display.
You betcha. Let's do that. And one thing I will tell you as we bring up all of these camera views here tonight, we have several, again, looking at the situation tonight, several pockets of damaging winds. Watertown, it looks to me like here we continue with some gusty winds that are still moving through, and obviously here we'll continue to move through.
All right, we'll be back in just a moment. This is KELOLAND News, continuing coverage of considerable destructive thunderstorms in eastern KELOLAND. Right now, our focus over the past couple of minutes has evolved really along this line of thunderstorms now in northeastern South Dakota. All along that line, you see where we have these individual red boxes. That's where we have new tornado warnings that are in effect. Adam Rutt has some details on those.
All right, so the first one that came up, this is southwestern Day, southeastern Brown, northwestern Clark, and northeastern Spink counties until 6:45 p.m. This is along that line, 14 miles southwest of Webster, near Lilly, north of 40 miles per hour. That's its direction. They are using radar indicated rotation here. If you're in the Butler area, if you're in Bristol, you need to be inside in your tornado space immediately. Then 3 minutes after that warning came up, another one for up in that neck of the woods. This one for southwestern Roberts, southeastern Day, northwestern Grant, and northern Coddington counties until 6:30 p.m. This line from Florence to South Shore, moving north at 65 miles per hour. Again, radar indicated rotation, the verbiage here. This will move up onto the Waubay area within the next about 10 or so minutes.
Yeah, and you can see Waubay right there in the middle of your screen, and Webster as well. So again, we're giving you the heads up here. If you're in Waubay, Webster, that whole line out to Bristol and Andover, the tornado warnings, I'll put those back on. They extend all the way to Groton, and that is a line of destructive thunderstorms with embedded 90-mile-an-hour winds or tornado-like winds. And individually, too, we have some collective areas with those rotation spots we just highlighted. And again, it looks to me like there's one of them just due south of Webster that looks particularly intense right now there. As I highlight that, just about halfway between Webster and Wallace. And then there's another little spot here south of Waubay that looks a little more intense as well. So and consider that line to be a very intense wind. And if the history continues here, we've had tornadoes with this line, and those have been confirmed. In fact, I wanted to bring that up.
Destructive down near Cottonwood.
Yeah, this is the one, the tornado that hit Castlewood.
Or Castlewood, sorry.
553, so that's Hamlin County. And then, of course, you know, we have some embedded hail there, too. But for the most part, that's the one tornado touchdown that we've had here in the last half hour. Obviously, there's a lot of other damage, but I do want to at least emphasize that's what's going on as we speak.
Also, funnel cloud reported from emergency management. This was in Waverly, Coddington County, headed northeast, and that was as of about 6:12 p.m.
All right, right near the Minnesota border. More information coming into KELOLAND News, Don.
There's pictures of the dangerous storms in their area. Take a look at this photo. This is great shots out there along the I-29 area in northwest Sioux Falls. It is seriously damaged as we speak. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more storm coverage in just a moment. Welcome back to our special coverage of a very destructive storm that started at about 4:30 this afternoon in the southeastern parts of KELOLAND. Is tracking across the eastern part of the state, now up into the northeastern parts of KELOLAND, and it's doing lots of damage all across KELOLAND. We're going to go back to KELOLAND's Lauren Solik, who is riding along with one of our photographers to check out some of the storm damage. Lauren?
Hey, Don. Yeah, so we are driving towards McKinnon Park right now. As you can see here, there are a lot of trees downed here on 27th Street, and people out checking out the damage probably in their properties. And, oh, yeah, we can see as we're coming up even more down trees. This is right over here by Susan B. Anthony Elementary School, a tree down in their playground, and this one right here right next to the sidewalk. Traffic is moving slow to hopefully not run into any trees themselves or anything like that. There is a street down here that is blocked off by police because of downed trees, if you can see the lights there in the distance. So we're going to continue driving to McKinnon Park. We've heard there's quite a bit of damage down there to kind of see what's happening down there. Oh, yeah, there's another downed tree right there in the middle. Looks like we're going to turn here. Blocked off area, and here's a massive tree that's cutting off part of this lane, and that one is in somebody's house. A lot of downed trees down here, so the damaging winds really just took a toll on all of these trees. Looks like it's clearing up a little bit now down here. Now, as we were driving earlier, there were streetlights out, and it looks like this one's out right now still. So if you're driving around or plan to drive, be careful and take it slowly around the stoplights as well. And so, yeah, we'll keep you covered on damage throughout the night as we continue to hear about it. Live in Sioux Falls, Lauren Solit, KELOLAND News.
All right, Lauren, thank you very much. You look at live Doppler here. We're still tracking that storm. You know, look, Jay, looking at those trees, it kind of reminds me, kind of reminiscent of the ice storm that hit Sioux Falls a few years ago.
Yes, certainly a lot of those. And Brian is showing you KELOLAND live Doppler. We do have that whole red line is a line of severe thunderstorms. While you do that, I wanted to go up to Madison. Veteran storm chaser Kenny Allen is up there. And Kenny, what does Madison look like?
Is a mess tonight. We started following these storms in near Canova and Spencer, South Dakota, when the first 90-mile-an-hour winds, the circulations that were embedded.
Sioux Falls a few years ago.
Yes, certainly a lot of those. And Brian is showing you KELOLAND live Doppler. We do have that whole red line is a line of severe thunderstorms. While you do that, I wanted to go up to Madison. Veteran storm chaser Kenny Allen is up there. And Kenny, what does Madison look like?
Is a mess tonight. We started following these storms in near Canova and Spencer, South Dakota, when the first 90-mile-an-hour wind.
Again, north at 70 up toward the Sisseton area.
Yep, that's the warning for the exact thing Brian was talking about there in his summit.
It just came up.
That feature.
So they're picking up on it.
Yeah, and that, again, if I go on the radar loop, do you see that? Curlicues developing. This is a very wound up spot right there. We've had a lot of these tonight, but again, that's the one at this moment I'm going to point out, because if you are in western Roberts County, based on the trajectory that you were just mentioning here, Adam, I mean, that's headed right for Sisseton. So if you are in Sisseton, and let me see if I can pull this out enough to produce 70, storm tracker moving at 70. So what it does here on the computer, it puts Sisseton there at 643. So you've got a little bit of time, but not much. Get in your basement now, as that segment is the strongest probably of the bunch, but anywhere along that line, we cannot rule out a tornado spin up.
That's the strongest circulation we have right now. Over to Don.
Yeah, mayor of Emory, and he says there is extensive damage in town and that they have posted a no travel advisory throughout the town. Probably a good idea. Let the emergency responders handle their jobs. In that same area, KELOLAND's Bridget Bennett, she joins us now from Salem, South Dakota, where there is also extensive damage. Bridget?
Yeah, Don, I'd say a lot of the structural damage from the storm is in Salem. I spoke with the McCook County Emergency Manager just a little while ago, and he said there's extensive damage throughout the county, but most of that structural damage is here right in Salem. We're just south of town, where there are several shops right here in this part of town that are completely gone. This shop had several vehicles inside. The homeowners are here and safe, thankfully, but they said they were in the basement when the storm came by and shattered their front windows, and you can see took off several shingles and parts of their roof as well. Their neighbors just behind them also lost a shop that's all over in their backyard. Their roof, lots of shingles missing, lots of that torn off, and they as well had those shattered front windows. It's like that wall of wind just hit these homes and exploded windows, taking off roofs, and of course shattering a lot of these shops and other farm equipment structures. I want to show you what we saw driving up here on Highway 81. Grain bins are crumpled all over Highway 81 near Emory, Bridgewater area, all the way in the Salem area here. Grain bins really kind of like bent from the wind. Some of them, the emergency manager said, were taken all the way off of their foundations. Others, though, just kind of bent or crumpled by the wind that came through. So there is extensive damage here in Salem. They're directing a lot of traffic off of the interstate and away from town here, trying to keep people away from the area as much as possible. We're going to go meet up with the emergency manager now to get an official update. They're still assessing damage throughout the county. No word yet on if there were any injuries. I'll have that update for you from the emergency manager in just a few minutes. For now, reporting live in Salem, Bridget Bennett, KELOLAND News.
All right. Thanks a lot, Bridget. Well, viewers, they continue to send us pictures of the dangerous storms in their area. Take a look at this one. It's from the 26th Street and Williams Avenue near the VA in Sioux Falls. If we can pull up that picture, you can see power pole is down along the branches that were blown around. Again, if you're out driving around because you want to see some of this damage, be careful. Power lines down in numerous areas around this city. All right, let's get an update with Chief Meteorologist Jay Trobec.
All right, Brian, we're watching a very nasty-looking circulation right around the Waubay and Summit.
Yeah, we're watching these little spots, and the one that kind of concerns me right now is right here just south or moving into Langford. That is definitely a rotational area right here. I'm going to circle that. It's now lifted north of Pierpont. Then let's go down the line here. We're going to go over to Roslyn. That's another one. In fact, there's maybe two of these going on. So again, as fast as this is moving through, you've got to take each one of these seriously and treat it as if it's on the ground. Even if it's a funnel cloud, these things are changing quickly. So again, the whole area there, as we've been pointing out, even right along or very close to looks like on the Roberts County line right now, just west of Interstate 29, moving just west of Sisseton. That's another one that looks awfully suspicious right now, right here. Okay, so we're going to circle that. There's Spring Grove, some of these smaller communities there in Roberts County. There's Sisseton off to the northeast. So that's what's happening right now. I also want to mention, as we're talking here, we've had reports. We've got to bring Brookings into the conversation. We've got a lot of damage in Brookings. We also have a lot of destructive wind reports coming out of Rock Valley, Iowa, where we have numerous reports of damage this evening. Multiple semi-trucks were flipped over between Elk Point and Jefferson earlier this evening due to the wind there. The list just goes on and on. I've got Round Lake, Nobles County, thunderstorm wind damage there. We have, of course, we've picked up Coddington County. We've talked about several things there. We've also now mentioned Kingsbury County near Hetland. Barn destroyed with debris thrown across Highway 14 in that direction. I just mentioned the Rock Valley comment. I will add to that, homes and buildings are destroyed in Rock Valley, is what we're hearing from the Weather Service.
Okay, Rock Valley, Iowa.
Yep, and that happened earlier. That was a report that came in, looks like 6:13 to the Weather Service. So again, that's there. There's the Brookings report. Numerous vehicles knocked over, trees snapped, widespread damage to houses and roofs in Brookings. Up the list we go here too. We've got, of course, we've talked about the semi-trucks over on Interstate 90. There's more of them. It looks like overturned up near Gary.
I think you have something out of Nobles County too, because we had destructive winds last night around Worthington, I think near Round Lake.
Yeah, and obviously it's a long list that's going to continue to unfold. So
Okay.
let's go back to radar.
Let's show one other thing, Brian, for our viewers in Northwest Iowa. You are not out of this, and we were looking at the forecast models projected that this next line of thunderstorms was going to come through Northwest Iowa tonight, and actually you see those storms. We already have secondary warnings now in Elk Point, down near Elk Point. That's Union County, the southeasternmost tip of South Dakota, and that line of thunderstorms coming up out of Nebraska is going to be overspreading northwest Iowa in the next few hours as well. This is something that we saw showing up in the forecast models, so it is not a surprise. If you thought that northwest Iowa was out of it, Not so, because this next line is going to kind of follow that same path, going up towards Sioux Center and up toward the Rock Rapids area. So we're going to see more thunderstorms. One last quick look at where the leading edge of those tornado warning cells are in the northeastern part of South Dakota. They continue to move to the north. Flashing yellow is severe thunderstorms. Flashing red are tornado warnings. Don?
In the storm center. Let's join KELOLAND's Bridget Bennett again in Salem as she gets a better look at some of the damage in that town. Bridget?
Yeah, Don, there is extensive damage here right in the heart of Salem. I'm here with the McCook County Emergency Manager, BJ Stiefhotter. Thank you for joining us. Talk about what's going on right here in Salem.
In Salem, we're starting on cleanup and damage assessment. We were just right 5 minutes before I pulled up, we're still addressing life threats and people trapped in vehicles and in houses from debris and trailer houses and everything else, which are still, coming in. But extensive damage. So you see a lot of homeowners out just kind of looking at things and seeing what.
Emergency Manager, BJ Stiefhotter. Thank you for joining us. Talk about what's going on right here in Salem.
In Salem, we're starting on cleanup and damage assessment.
And meet with some of the homeowners who are already working to clean up and figure out what's next for their homes and all of that tree damage as well. Reporting live in Salem, Bridget Bennett, KELOLAND News.
All right, thank you very much, Bridget. We're going to have more storm coverage, more video to show you of the historic McKinnon Park area, and we'll be tracking the latest on those storms as they continue to of history. The historic McKinnon Park area in Sioux Falls with its huge trees, it was hit hard by the storm. This is drone footage from Sioux Falls photographer Christopher Reisstroffer. And as you can see, trees throughout the area were toppled by the winds, and there is damage to structures as well. We have a crew on that scene, and we will bring you more details throughout the evening on KELOLAND News and also on KELOLAND.com. Jay?
It looks like that ice storm, doesn't it?
It looks like that
all those
ice
trees
storm
down there.
And it's very reminiscent of Tornado Tuesday that we had back in the...
This one, I think we might have even more widespread destruction than Tornado Tuesday, to be honest, because these big wall of wind events, what they tend to do is give us a broad destruction rather than the narrow destruction of tornadic circulations. And speaking of which, Brian, right now looking at live radar, and you could make a case we have probably 5 potential tornadic spots in that little line of thunderstorms up in northeastern tip of South Dakota.
Yeah, we certainly are watching that carefully here tonight as we are looking at these indicators of where there's rotation. There's several of them. Eden, if you go a few miles down the road to the east, there's another one. There's another one here just southwest of Sisseton. Obviously, these things are changing quickly, so tornado warnings remain in effect for Roberts County, also for Marshall County. These storms, by the way, they're moving north at about 70 or so, and obviously Veblen, you're just about there, and then this is going to become an issue on the North Dakota side of the border as this continues to head up toward Fargo, could create lots of damage that way. Also, this storm has an eastern component or an eastern flank as well. I want to switch gears just to recap how this line is going now through and out of our coverage area, but again, probably heading right for the Twin Cities once again. They had a lot of damage yesterday and last night. Another product we can quickly show here, I want to bring up that power outage map that we have. Now, again, this is updating as we speak, but let me pan the map out. So county by county, it lists how many total households we have without power. So we're showing at 12,000 in Minnehaha County as of right now. And again, this is something that we'll continue to update, but obviously some of these smaller communities even are picking up quite a number of these. Hutchinson County, that's a big number for Hutchinson County to have 2,000 customers out of power. And of course, they've been out of power longer. Also, Davison County shows 4,500. So these are numbers that obviously will be changing throughout the evening, but I just wanted to let you know that obviously the maps are showing us a lot of power outages. Even Beetle County's at 4,000. Let's see, Dual County's probably on there as well as I pan the map to the north. So these are all significant items just to let you know about. Here we go back to radar again for the Sioux Falls area. We're now on the backside of this, but I will mention that activity down in Nebraska. See, there's more tornado warnings south of Sioux City. Mostly speaking, this new development should remain to the south, but I will tell you that there are some indicators of this maybe crossing back up to Yankton and Vermilion a little bit. There's another storm cell that's kind of popped up. That air down there is still pretty humid and muggy, but again, I would say for the majority of KELOLAND, especially north of Sioux Falls, we've kind of been able to take the starch out of the air. So we anticipate over the next few hours, again, there could be some stuff that pops up, but not to the severity that we had. That's our live view from downtown Sioux Falls. Again, we'll continue to check in on those live cameras as, we go through the evening hours. Back to northeast South Dakota and the storms at hand here, Jay. We also want to point out here, just to the west of Aberdeen, some fairly strong storms as well. In fact, this line coming in near Faulkton up to Bowdle is pretty intense, and that has come into view here just coming out of the Oneida area. So if you're in Aberdeen, you may pick up some of this, as lightning tracker is fairly strong at the present moment.
All right, I wanted to get people brought up to speed with what's going on, because what we have going on is a whole lot of everything weather-wise. Here is a look at the setup that we had earlier today. We did have, and we do have, the severe thunderstorm watch for southeastern South Dakota. It was declared a potentially dangerous situation watch, which is pretty rare around here, and that has unfortunately panned out with thunderstorms moving out of Nebraska. We also have the area in red, which is the northern half of South Dakota, areas north of Highway 14. That's a tornado watch that's posted until 10 p.m. tonight. And all along that line up in the northeastern tip of South Dakota, we've seen a broad number of circulations. And unfortunately, it did come to pass. There was the possibility of 100+ mile-an-hour winds. We did get some measurements on the ground that confirmed that, unfortunately, and we have widespread damage. I mean widespread damage. Pretty much the entire eastern half of South Dakota impacted, or for sure the eastern third of South Dakota, and we're still not done yet, because we do have more problems. And, along with this destruction, we also have the problem of we got a bunch of repairs to do, and Adam is taking a look right now to see what's going on as far as the infrastructure here in the Sioux Falls area, because we're going to be laying down a lot of wire, it looks like.
Yeah, so what you're seeing here, going off of what Brian was talking about a little bit earlier, the number of people estimated without power, that's taking that and looking at the percentage of that population relative to each county. Look at Beadle County, up toward Huron, 82.5% of the county estimated without power. Even toward Davison County and Mitchell, 76% of the county without power. McCook County, almost 60%. Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, 14.5%. And we just got a live update. Davison County now up to 80% of the county.
All along the James River.
Yeah, all along James River. 85% of those counties without power. McCook, 72%. Even up toward the Smet, it does not get a whole lot better. They're almost at 75% of the county without power.
Yeah, lots of evidence of widespread damaging wind here tonight. Let's bring you up to speed. Brand new, or continuation of tornado warnings. If you're watching us in Britain, tornado warning in effect until 7 p.m. Veblen, you're on the edge of that cell. Sisseton, experiencing it right now. I know that storm just a little while ago, probably about 10-15 minutes ago, had 84 mile-an-hour winds there at the, was that the Summit exit or near Summit, right?
1 mile west-northwest of Summit.
Okay, so right there, yeah, you're talking pretty strong winds. Even if we're not looking directly at tornadic winds, we're talking destructive straight-line winds embedded within these cells. Now, as we piece this together, again, the other end of this is now moving out of KELOLAND on the eastern flank. We're talking Benson and Wilmer, Minnesota, moving up here northwest of the Twin Cities and up to St. Cloud. So that's going to be a problem there. Obviously, you look to the south. We're still keeping an eye on Sioux City, and, they've even had widespread damage in that area, and there are new tornado warnings coming up now south of Sioux City. Our northwest Iowa audience, we're going to watch that, because that activity is moving, if you look at that carefully, to the north and pretty quickly. So Lamar's, and eventually could be an impact for some of our counties a little closer up the Big Sioux River Valley here, Jay.
All right, wanted to get another report on some of the damage up around Madison, South Dakota. Veteran storm chaser Kenny Allen up there, and you have some more to report to us about the damage up around Madison?
Hi, Jay.
Yeah, it's a mess in Madison tonight, and first responders are doing their best to get to everyone as fast as they can, and they're trying to get to all the power poles that are down and get the power lines off the roads. Mayor Lindsay is out evaluating town as well right now, along with all of the first responders and the police department, sheriff's department. Several buildings have roofs off. There are homes with windows blown in. Some of our manufacturing buildings in town have damage. There's other storage buildings that have been completely destroyed and materials just strewn about. And the tree damage is next level. We have trees down, it seems like, on every single street, power lines down, obstructing traffic. So it is a mess in Madison, South Dakota tonight. There is no power. There's no internet. I really would doubt if we have school here tomorrow. And with graduation coming up this weekend, it's a really sad sight to see our town in such disrepair. But so far, I've heard no reports of any deaths or anything of that sort. But Madison is quite a big mess right now. And like I said, some of our buildings have sustained quite a bit of damage, lots of roof damage, and even some roofs blown off and windows blown in. So,
all right. Kenny, thank you so much for that report.
Stay in.
Yep. Good luck with the cleanup. I'm sure it'll be considerable. Kenny Allen reporting live there from Madison, South Dakota, hit hard by those destructive storms we've been watching all afternoon and evening. And now, Brian, you have an update on the next some more storms coming in.
Yes, and we want to go right to this. We've got a new severe thunderstorm warning for southern Union County. This is the Elk Point area. We're back to 70-mile-an-hour wind again. Now, this is, again, the southeast tip of South Dakota. However, the storm motion, and this is what caught my eye just a little bit ago. And, again, we'll see how this unfolds here. But the storm motion on this is actually, Jay, coming in almost due north. So it's going to run up the Big Sioux River Valley. We'll see how intense it continues. Obviously, these first storms took out some starch out of the air. We hope that that'll be the case, but at least if you're watching us in Akron, down here in the southern part of Union County, expect the possibility of 70-mile-an-hour winds as a severe thunderstorm warning has now been issued due to a secondary line of storms clipping extreme southeast KELOLAND.
Yeah, if you want to go back up to northeastern South Dakota, Adam has some information on the latest warnings up in the far northeastern tip of South Dakota.
Yeah, they have been basically expanding that tornado warning in the Roberts County area. This is also going into Traverse County, Minnesota until 7:15 p.m. This is for that line we've been keeping a very close eye on near Sitka Hollow to Dumont. This is moving up to the north at about 70 miles per hour if you're in that neck of the woods. So again, 70 miles per hour to the north, just basically extending that right up to the northern portion of Aberdeen's coverage before this goes up into North Dakota.
Yeah, and I see, too, on the corner of the screen here, now exiting our area, but Benson, Minnesota, east, there are damaging tornadoes on the ground right now.
Wow.
That's
confirmed.
Headed up to Sauk Center and, central Minnesota. So just putting that out there. We're not the only ones tonight. The Minneapolis area, too, will likely get destructive winds as that severe line now going into central Minnesota. They had that last night, and now a second round of that tonight. We're also watching Siouxland down to Omaha, Nebraska, a line of tornado and severe thunderstorm development there as well, as this is a very intense complex of weather tonight across the plains, and we'll continue to watch the northern flank of this again as we bring up our latest storm tracker here this evening. I am going to do a quick look at that, Jay, because I think it would be important to at least put out a little storm tracker on this cell there, because it is moving north quite quickly. So if it heads up the Big Sioux River Valley, Akron, Iowa, 712, Alcester, 725. That's, again, some new thunderstorms. We'll keep an eye on it. I mentioned Rock Valley earlier. Some really significant damage in Rock Valley. We have some buildings that are destroyed there.
Yeah, and a wall of wind associated with those thunderstorms you were just looking at. Adam?
The tornado warning I just mentioned before for Roberts and Traverse County, media confirming tornado on the ground 10 miles north of Sisseton.
10 miles north of Sisseton, so the far northeastern corner of South Dakota. Anybody traveling up I-29 there, running into that. I guess it should be no surprise. That is an area that's had a lot of little areas of spin-ups. And Adam, there was a report of damage when the storm was a little bit further south in Cottington County?
Yeah, 7 miles southeast of Florence. Emergency management reporting around 6 p.m. A house basically, in their words, ripped apart by the storm that moved on through.
And that's what they said. Okay, now, so Traverse County in Minnesota across into the northeastern part of South Dakota. That's where we have the latest tornado. And you've got a pretty good signature there, Brian.
Yeah, we're watching.
Circle that so you can see it.
Let's see here. We've got right here near Clare City.
New Effington. They just came in with an update. Train spotter did report a brief touchdown in the New Effington area.
Okay.
Look at that. We really do have three suspect tornadic circulations there. Yeah, maybe a fourth.
Yeah, one, two, three, four.
Yeah.
From Clare City to Rochelle.
It's a tough night tonight, and these again, this is going to be exiting our KELOLAND area here shortly. But again, this has been the track history of these embedded tornado spin-ups, and of course, where we haven't had tornado spin-ups, we've had damaging, destructive winds. So we're going to maintain our coverage for that. Again, that's a tornado warning there in northern Roberts County until 7:15. We also have the extension there just about to Veblen, but certainly through Roberts County. That is not pretty at all. That is, in fact, in my opinion, that is certainly showing really intense circulation right south of Victor and Rossholt, moving into that northeastern section of Roberts County. Please be in your tornado shelter right now if you are in this warned area. Again, Rossholt to Victor. And New Effington, too, there's other circulation points there. We do know a confirmed tornado is on the ground, and that is probably one of the strongest rotation markers we've seen all evening. So that's going to be, again, very serious for folks to be in the shelter right now as this heads right up parallel to Interstate 29. It's about 3 miles to the east of the interstate and is moving directly to the north. So, again, if you are in that area of Rossholt, you need to be in your tornado shelter right now. That is the most important storm this minute. Now, you can see the line extends to the west. Obviously, there's other storms out there, but these west of Aberdeen are non-severe. So, again, we're just kind of keeping an eye on everything in that northeast corner of South Dakota. New Effington to Rossholt, tornado is on the ground and is confirmed here by storm spotters there. Just to the southwest of Rossholt.
Also, another warning just came up. If you go a little bit to the west, if you will, this is for portions of northwestern northeastern Marshall County. New tornado warning just came up for that. So basically, just kind of filling in the gap toward Hillhead, Marlow. This is all moving up to the north of 60 miles per hour. That's in place also until 7:15.
Heading quickly into North Dakota.
Yep.
Yeah, and that will be, again, moving into North Dakota. So for those that are concerned about that, again, this is also going to be a bad story for folks up here, too, out of our coverage area, but certainly heading in that direction tonight as this destructive wind has basically started in Nebraska, and it has effectively gone tonight over 200 miles.
Yeah.
And it is still causing
well
damage.
Over 200 miles. Actually started a little bit further to the south in Nebraska. In fact, here's a look at the big picture. We did have those thunderstorms fire up this afternoon, and unfortunately, they did exactly what we suspected they were going to do. They formed a line, and they came to the north, and they plowed right through eastern KELOLAND. Here's a review. 2, 3 in the afternoon, 4, 5 through Sioux Falls to the north through northeastern South Dakota, leaving behind widespread destruction. This I don't think I'm speaking out of line if I say this is probably a multi-million-dollar damaging event because the damage was so widespread. And this is one of the things when we talk about tornadoes, everybody talks about tornadoes, but you know what? These widespread wind events can actually cause more damage because they're more widespread. A tornado causes a lot of destruction in a smaller area, but these big, broad lines of thunderstorms, they cause big problems. And now it looks like the second round getting ready to move through northwest Iowa, Brian.
Yep. Outside of our coverage area a little bit here, but even down south of Sioux City, they're watching new rotation. It looks like, is it Salix?
Yes.
Iowa?
Salix. It's Salix Fire Department in Woodbury. They're on 260th Street.
So anybody who's driven on I-29, you know those exits there. Yeah. But we show those because our friends in Lamar's and places like that are going to be impacted by this next round of thunderstorms through northwest Iowa. They have been projected to fall. If you see that little, can you follow that line along the highway there, Brian? That's kind of the line, the boundary that thing was expected to follow. If you see that blue line Brian just drew in there, that's the projected path of these thunderstorms, which are expected to expand through northwest Iowa over the next couple of hours.
Well, look at the lightning tracker on that. Just west of Sioux City, that has really picked up. And again, we would expect that this line, as it drifts north, it's obviously going to run into some of the effects of this first line of storms. But northwest Iowa, even up as far northwest as Yankton, we've got some thunderstorm development. And it is now, again, if you look at the time lapse and you look at the projections here, off to the northeast. So northwest Iowa, I know we've had some damage there, but you may not be quite done yet, obviously, as we watch all of that. Even in Sioux Falls, I noticed here just in a little bit, we've had another little flare-up going on here too, just to the northeast of town, and then also the one that's down near the Yankton area.
You see that new box that just popped up on Brian's display there?
Yeah.
Brian, that's the new severe thunderstorm warning for northwest Iowa. Still listed with a damage threat of considerable. Winds 70 miles an hour, could have some hail over an inch size. And that's moving through northwest Iowa. If you can, maybe do a little storm track through that area, BK,
yes,
because that's where it's going to move.
And I even have a rotation marker.
Rotation.
Yeah, so okay, let's do that right now. We'll bring back the radar view here this evening, and let me show you how that unfolds here. Again, into northwest Iowa, this trajectory here just from south of Vermilion. And again, we'll kind of follow that right about through Sioux City, and the movement there, I believe, northeast at about that 40-mile-an-hour range. So again, bringing up some of these communities like Spink at 710, Akron, Iowa, 711. And I know that as Adam, you're kind of probing that circulation there around Jackson and Hubbard, a little west-southwest of Sioux City. Again, that's a little outside of our coverage area, but we're watching it carefully as it moves northeast.
Yeah,
One thing I would mention about those storms, Storm Prediction Center just put out a statement about those storms. They do say that the environment's going to be supportive of destructive wind gusts for the next several hours as they move through northwest Iowa. So we're talking about we could see some more 80-mile-an-hour gusts now this time in northwest Iowa after we've had those destructive thunderstorms move through South Dakota earlier in the evening.
Okay, and Vermilion on the edge of one of those heavier storms again. You can see that. See those cells that have popped up south of Gayville and south of Meckling? So, again, that's the southern flank. Let's go back to the north now. I want to go back to the activity happening along the North Dakota border. Again, as the tornado warning for New Effington and these areas continues, Rossholt, that is in effect here for about another 10, 11 minutes or so. Looking at that expiration there at about 7:15. Tornado warning, Veblen to New Effington to Rossholt. And again, that area, in particular, as we've been watching these little rotate, well, I shouldn't say little, they're definitely rotating and enough to produce a couple of spin-ups here. The one between Rossholt and New Effington in particular has been rather intense. But I will say that now is on the North Dakota border, right here on where Interstate 29 goes right into North Dakota. That's right where it is at the moment. So again, that's going to be an issue headed toward Fargo. It's been a busy night tonight. We've had several counties included with numerous warnings. I do want to also mention the fact that northern Marshall County is still under a tornado warning as well until 7:15. That's a Doppler radar indicated tornado that is pushing right into the North Dakota, South Dakota border region right now. Lots of rain. Can't see much when they are rain-wrapped. I imagine that is also a problem given the extent of the wind and the wall of wind that we've been witnessing with this storm line tonight.
Yeah. Adam, are you looking at something over in that other computer display?
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on some of the storms over toward Eureka, Bottle, Ipswich. They've been putting up at least some sub-severe advisories at the moment. Been seeing the winds pick up, at least in those cells, upward of 50, 55 miles per hour. So we're starting to see a little bit of intensity coming around out in that next to the woods. Also watching some delayed reports coming in from the National Weather Service, both in terms of gusts upward of 80 to even 90 miles per hour toward the Bonham County area. But we've also seen, if I can find this again, there was a report of some silos that have been sustaining heavy damage. Here we go. Kingsbury County and Arlington, 2 grain silos were had their tops ripped off and bent in. Portions of the roofs have been peeled off downtown. Multiple trees down all across Arlington.
Okay, that's further down to the south here. I got to put that.
It's been a long night, hasn't it? And the number of communities experiencing damaging wind tonight is one of the strongest that I have seen since I worked here.
One of the most widespread, certainly.
Yeah, just the number of towns involved in this tonight. It's affected so many, not everywhere, but these pockets have hit, and where they've hit, they've been really rough. So again, as you're, looking at that from a perspective of cleaning things up, obviously, please be extra careful around any down power lines. We've had so many power outages. We referenced a map about 10 or 15 minutes ago about the number of power outages. If you encounter a line, you treat it as if it's live, if it's electrified. So stay far away from any of that. Of course, if in your car, it's very hard to tell what's on the ground. We've got numerous trees down in several of these communities. So please let the emergency workers do their jobs. And I know that temptation is out there to, be a looky-loo and look out and see these damage areas. But please, we want you to stay safe tonight. Let those emergency personnel do their jobs, as they are very busy tonight. Mitchell area, we've reported several power outages in Davison County. It's upwards of 70 to 80% of the county is out of power. Same kind of numbers coming out of Huron. So again, that's another story too, as you have to deal with power outages and the fallout from that. We still have a severe thunderstorm watch for the Sioux Falls area. I would say at this point that first line really probably took out a lot of the energy. We've got to watch northwest Iowa, though, as that second push comes out. Tornado watch is still in effect, but again, the main line now has pushed through most of northeast South Dakota.
It's going to become Minnesota and North Dakota's problem here pretty quick.
Yeah.
Adam's taking a look at those, at the power figures. Looks like it's more widespread than it was before, certainly.
Yeah, especially along, like you said, the James River Valley not too long ago. Beadle County still reporting 85% of the county without power. Down toward Davison County and the Mitchell, still 80% without power. Close to 15% as you head toward Minnehaha County. Lake County also not too far off the pace. They're coming in at 16% up toward Watertown, a point south. We'll move on up a little bit over there just to smidge to the north. We can at least get the percentages out that way. 60.5%, nearly 70%. If you put that into numbers, we're talking several thousand in that area, 1,000 to 2,000. Again, south and east of Watertown with those cells that have moved through. Minnehaha County, for what it's worth, around 12,000 people estimated without power.
All right, and the thunderstorms continue. Brian, you have some information about the big picture about what we have been seeing today, and it's widespread trouble is what we've been seeing all afternoon long.
So in total here, we've got about 169 severe wind reports tonight. 169, 37 of those from Nebraska into South Dakota are significant. In other words, they're in that range of 80-mile-per-hour winds or more. I'll pick out a couple of these as we kind of go through the list here tonight. The Gayville area had 89-mile-an-hour winds. That occurred at about 4:25, and then this storm picked up northwest of Tripp in Hutchinson County. We had a wind gust of 107. Then we moved to just south of Freeman, 84-mile-an-hour winds, 4:35. Jefferson, South Dakota, 75-mile-an-hour wind. That came in with semis flipped over. Centerville came in with 82 mile-an-hour winds, and then right up it went. Dalton out in McCook County, 80-mile-an-hour winds. These are just the ones that we have. There's others in here that aren't in the official books yet. The Huron area had 90-mile-an-hour winds. Sioux Falls, officially at the airport, reporting at least up to 78, but parts of the city are higher. Madison, Kenny Allen reporting to us several reports from Madison. We had reports of Lake Madison of 97 miles per hour at the airport there. And then, of course, up into Spink County, 80-mile-an-hour winds there too. Brookings to Arlington, 80 plus. It just goes on and on and on here. So the reports tonight, of course, even earlier in the show, we mentioned Castlewood and tornado report there. That is now reported as 2 houses, and the north side of the school is damaged. due to a tornado in Castlewood in Hamlin County. Jay?
All right, that was up there. Let me show you the big picture. Folks asking if Sioux Falls is done. Probably, though we do have this line of thunderstorms, which is going to be moving, this secondary line. That's going to move up through northwest Iowa. Could kind of skirt the areas around the east side of Sioux Falls later tonight. More likely through northwest Iowa, because as we go through the evening hours, this thing is going to move to the northwest and then a little bit more to the west, going through northern Iowa later on tonight. So the first line is through. Second one is probably going to remain just the east side of Sioux Falls. You can see the general movement of it is in a northeasterly direction, while Sioux Falls is right here. So you can see it's moving kind of like this. And at this time, it looks like they'd have trouble. We've kind of messed up the atmosphere around Sioux Falls with that leading edge of the line of thunderstorms that went through. Now these are again causing some wind gusts, and we're starting to see some rotation just about to come across the border out of Nebraska.
Yeah, this is a warning west of Sioux City, but the reason we're bringing this up is because it's moving to the north and northeast. So that box there is drawn. It's going to probably clip, in fact, is clipping southern Union County with some strong winds again here. You know, earlier in the evening, in the afternoon, you'll recall we had our wind tracker up here, and we were talking about, you know, the extent of the winds here. Well, let me bring this into motion here again. What we're probing here south of Sioux Falls, some 70-mile-an-hour winds in there again. That's just south of Burbank. Even in the Sioux City area, we're coming up, and that's at radar height. Again, that's a little higher scan, but it is indicative of the warned area. The verbiage here reflecting 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts in this area. I'll bring up the storm tracker. Now, notice since we just last visited, look how this is filled in now up into Clay County. And look at the lightning tracker on the Nebraska side of the border. There's a lot of positive lightning strikes. I wouldn't be too shocked, J2 here, if we end up with some hail in here. Let me take the lightning off for the moment here. We'll go back to hail tracker, and there it is. That's the dual polarization tool on the Doppler radar. It looks at the shapes of the precipitation there, and it says, yes, there's some hailstones just due south of Burbank. So if you're in Burbank, in fact, a lot more hail is going on here, isn't it? Looks like crossing I-29. In the Jefferson area, North Sioux City, that's going to head right up into western Plymouth County. So again, a very strong storm as we speak, and even these flare-ups are now even going up as far north as Viborg again. So we're not completely done here. We will be on the air monitoring that carefully, as the atmosphere has had so much starch in it today. It's hard to wring all that out with just one line of storms. We got to take a second line to knock this through here tonight. And again, our southern folks here south of Sioux Falls, it's not going to be long, and Sioux County is going to be back in this again, probably Primgar and over towards Sibley, Iowa. So again, I just want to make highlight of that as we're watching that. It does appear now, too, that the tornado threats are exiting the northeast tip of South Dakota. We'll watch for more damage reports as those come in. Obviously, there's a lot more to say about that. The one confirmed tornado southeast of New Effington, that occurred at 6:52. So that's, you know, not quite a half an hour ago, but close. And numerous wind reports. Here's one, Corona, 62 miles per hour. Summit, that 84-mile-an-hour wind. There's another funnel cloud near Waverly, South Dakota, and even Watertown. You know, we can talk about Watertown damage, Brookings damage, Huron damage.
Madison damage. Well, we could. You know what? We better stop because we're going to leave somebody out in so many places.
Yeah, a lot of dots on that
KELOLAND
screen.
News documented already. We've heard from places like Bridget Bennett was around the Salem area, Emory, McCook County, lots of widespread damage. Even here in Sioux Falls, lots of tree damage. There were some pretty considerable power outages earlier. Now it looks like some of those are starting to be picked up here in the Sioux Falls area. But here's the line that Brian's looking at right now. Again, here's Beersford, South Dakota. Here's I-29 right here. Everything's moving in a northeasterly direction. It's moving into northwest Iowa. That trend is going to continue. We're probably going to see more of those winds. But as BK was just pointing out, we could have some embedded hailstones in these as well. Now, that's something we haven't talked very much about because, frankly, the hail sizes we've had to this point have been not very big. Here in the southeastern part of South Dakota, we had like some penny-sized hail reports, and that was it. Of course, they're wind-driven, and that doesn't help, but we didn't get the big hail reports. Now we're starting to see a little bit more hail development out of the second round as it moves into northwest Iowa. Now, Brian was just showing on some of the, querying some of the radar data to see the winds. Not as strong as we saw earlier, those certainly in the damaging category, but look at the potential for hail, and that's what's now moving. This is the extreme southeastern tip of South Dakota. Here's I-29 right there. This is northwest Iowa, and you do see a continuation of those storms as they move into northwest Iowa, and looks like right on the Missouri River, Brian, we got some hail development.
Yeah, it's hailing at a pretty good clip right now in Sioux City. So that's another thing that, again, we'll have to watch as this cools off a little bit, I would say, probably at this point. Even the hail that's grown north of Vermilion, I would not be shocked if there's another severe thunderstorm warning coming out for Clay County or very close to that. I know the southern part of Clay is already in a warning, but even Vermilion, see that right there? There's another hail core just about to come into town there. Again, these are all things that aren't quite as strong as they were earlier, but nevertheless, watching that. Yeah, we just have a new warning.
Yep, just came up.
And just now we're going to put Lincoln County back into this again. This is
the far southern part, it looks like.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, it's going to run up here at least to Beersford and up to, it looks like clipping southeastern Turner. I know we're pulling it right up as we speak here.
Right along the Lincoln-Minnehaha County border.
Yeah,
along,
all of Lincoln now.
Yep.
Okay, so
all right, here's
Lennox,
Lennox, here's T, here's Viborg now in this severe thunderstorm warning. It's moving in a northeasterly direction, and it's coming up through Lincoln County toward the southeastern edge of Minnehaha County, which is kind of where the Sioux Falls area, here, that is right here. You see the movement of it. We could be getting some wind and some hail. Now, just to what you were talking about before, the hail threat, Sioux City reporting pea-size hail in that embedded storm they have there, some pea-size hail embedded in very heavy rainfall. So the precipitation's there. There is some hail, but right now it looks like there's more heavy rain than hail moving through Sioux City, and maybe that's an indication of what's coming up our way too. But here's the second round of thunderstorms, as you're saying. Here it comes, and there's lightning there, so we're probably getting some heavy rain, and some destructive winds will be a possibility as well. So our new warning is there, and they're still continuing to say the wind threat of damage is considerable. The threat is with 70-mile-an-hour winds, and they've given hail inch-and-a-half type hail, so bigger than quarter size, possible out of those storm cells as they move through southeastern tip of South Dakota. BK.
Yeah, let's look at that hail product. We've got a special tool that we can show for that, and as we reflect that, I'm just going to bring up the latest view here. So this is your hail. It is north of Vermilion. Okay, so specifically, it is just to the southwest or southeast of Wakanda. So again, this is some large hail in this swath here, and again, there's some wind that's developing with that particular cell. We're watching those clouds darkening again on our live camera network. I believe, Jay, you've got a view of that as we speak. There it is from downtown Sioux Falls. We've come back to 73 temperature.
We've cooled off. Wow.
Yeah. Cooled from 92, 93 earlier in the day. Obviously, we'll watch the hail threat that comes up, and that, again, is important because I know some of you are obviously trying to assess some damage, clean up, those kind of things. Just stay alert to additional thunderstorms and lightning coming back into the picture here tonight. Jay?
All right, so that's a look from Sioux Falls down to the south. That is looking directly into the new thunderstorm warning, which is south of Sioux Falls, going to be coming through Lincoln County, approaching the Beersford area right now. So that is going to be an issue for us over the next several minutes. And so we look for that trend to continue. Watch those storms move to the northeast with perhaps some embedded hail and some stronger winds.
Well, we're getting, this is Vermilion right now. Now this just updated. Right over Vermilion, there's some very strong winds again right overhead. Now,
again, that's at cloud level.
Yeah.
It's cloud level.
We scanned that earlier, but you'll recall when we were scanning those earlier.
Some of it did get down to the ground, yes.
Yep, it sure did. So we just keep that in mind, that there's wind aloft. We'll see if it all roots down or pieces of that. But if I were in Vermilion, obviously it's blowing through now. So anybody up here into northern parts of Union County, there are going to be specks in here where the winds are going to get awfully gusty once again as we deal with this new flank of this particular line of storms now targeting northwest Iowa. Now,
yeah,
the northern
and
edge,
in Vermilion, BK, now just some penny-sized hail reports. And in, that's a late report from Plankerton. 12 vehicles flipped on I-90 between White Lake and Plankerton. That's a report we had much earlier, but it just came through. So penny-sized hail already in that storm near Vermilion at the moment, ground verification.
Okay, so there is hail there. There's wind, obviously, to some extent. Mostly aloft, mostly up in the cloud layer, but we want to make sure that you're aware, obviously, with the history of these storms tonight. We're just going to continue to watch and make precautions about some strong gusty winds with these cells. And we, of course, have a little time to watch this, but Canton, Lenox included in the new warning. So obviously it runs up to the southern side of Sioux Falls. We'll see how much of this actually extends into the Sioux Falls metropolitan area within the next half hour, but certainly a very strong component that's been expanding out of the Sioux City area. If we go back just an hour ago, you can see how quickly that was an hour ago, and now if we advanced in the 1 hour time lapse, there it is. So this is moving fast, and that's been the speed today. Everything is on quick mode with all of this wind and everything else we've been tracking. So as we speak, that's probably the biggest story. I would say down into maybe Plymouth County, Iowa, that looks a little more suspicious. There's a Boeing structure that's coming up there between Hinton and Sioux City. And what that does, it basically is it takes that trajectory to the northeast. It puts Paulina, Primgar, some more of our viewing area kind of skirting this thing here as it moves through our northwestern Iowa counties, Jay.
All right, again, watching this second line of thunderstorms move to the northeast, coming through northwest Iowa. We have seen a little redevelopment on the backside of the big storm. That's not unusual. Out toward Pipestone, Minnesota, down toward the northern edge of Minnehaha County. But that's the main line we're watching right now. And the forecast models did suggest there's going to be that secondary line pushing through northwest Iowa. It is slightly to the east, slightly to the west of what we were seeing before. So it could still clip maybe the southeastern edge of the Sioux Falls area. In fact, let me just back it up so you can see. Here's Sioux Falls, and here's those thunderstorms, and we'll just do the little extrapolation there. You can kind of see the direction that they're moving. As Brian said, they're moving quite quickly. They do have a bit of a northern tilt to them, so we can't say we're completely done here in the Sioux Falls area, but we do have those thunderstorms that are mainly going to push through northwest Iowa, and right now we got some hail around the Vermilion area. And Brian, I'm going to pop up that live cam you're looking at right now. They can watch with you.
Yeah, we're looking at Harrisburg. So we're looking down there into Lincoln County. Again, that's a storm that at this moment probably more of a hail and some strong winds with it. It's a severe thunderstorm warning. Not to the level we had earlier, but we're still talking about some degree of severe weather moving through. And this is folks are trying to assess damage and just doing some cleanup here as we watch these storms here tonight.
On an average day, we would say those are strong thunderstorms, but compared to what we had earlier when we were talking about 100-mile-an-hour gusts,
right,
it's not in the same category, although, I mean, there's some wind there, definitely.
Well, we definitely want to make sure we're keeping track of it as we get every scan of the radar. That's important. Let me pause this because I'm going to do one thing here quickly for you. Let's bring up Wakanda, and again, you know, I have to tell you, there's some wind in there, and it just kind of flares up. I know those numbers look a little intense, not to the level perhaps that we had earlier, but there could be at least 70 to 80-mile-an-hour winds trying to pop up there, Jay, as we pop some numbers on the screen. The velocity data is there. Up.
And Adam has reports, some hail reports out. You better pop up that Sioux City view there, because those storms down in Clay County over towards Sioux City, they've got some hail in them, don't they?
Yeah, we've been getting some reports upward of, at bare minimum on the low end, penny now up to inch diameter hail.
Quarter-size hail, yeah.
Quarter-size hail. That's over toward east-northeast of Vermilion by about a mile. We have been getting some isolated larger reports of hail, but again, that is over just north of Sioux City. But we're starting to get those hail reports getting in more and more in the Clay County area as this continues to move on up to the north.
All right, this is the second line again. This is not the first line went through with lots of destruction. This is the second line. Brian's watching that there, taking a look at it from the Harrisburg area. But you see the skies to the south of Sioux Falls are again kind of dark looking. You can see that as well. If you look from Falls Park down to the south, you'll be able to see some of those storms there down in the distance. So the southeastern edge of the Sioux Falls metro area, we could get clipped again by the storm as it pushes through Lincoln County. And so we're not quite done with this thing yet. We still have some storms that can produce some damage. And so that's going to be something we got to keep an eye on over the next several minutes. Let's take a look. Brian, what are you showing there? The live cam out of downtown Sioux Falls?
Yep, we're just watching, of course, as the damage reports have come in from McKinnon Park area. A lot of areas in Sioux Falls obviously dealing with wind tonight. And so as the activity continues to push up our direction from the south, make sure that as you are busy this evening, you have our Storm Tracker app loaded and tracking this weather as we continue to watch a secondary push of some rain, some thunderstorms, and some wind to some degree. Again, we don't have confirmation of these strong gusts here north of Vermilion, but at radar height, it's suggesting that the winds are getting quite strong again. Beersford, it's moving right into town. Let me go live to our Beersford radar. As you see there, Centerville as well, more pockets of rain. So far, hail size has not been tremendous. It's been nickel to that quarter size range, but certainly a lot of cloud to ground lightning. See that here, especially when you get that many positive strikes. Now that in particular, that's really intense lightning, really sharp. When you experience something like that, it's very loud, and if you're trying to assess any damage outside, you've got to get back in and let this storm go through. Rock Valley, I'm going to call you out too because you're in the warning, and I know Rock Valley has had some significant damage out of that.
All right, if you're wondering what we're looking at, this kind of situation here in the Storm Center, three of us here, Scot Mundt, also working on some of our web products. If you're looking for details online, you can find that at KELOLAND.com. We've got numerous radar views that we're looking at, other scientific materials. We've been watching these all day long. We're getting reports coming in from in the field. KELOLAND News has been providing a lot of information about some of the damage that we've picked up from these this wall of considerable winds we've seen pushing through KELOLAND during the day today. And now we're watching the second line as expected. This one also moving out of northeastern Nebraska a little bit further to the east. So this one is now pushing up through northwest Iowa and again clipping the southeastern part of South Dakota. And the question is whether or not it will reach the southeastern edge of Sioux Falls. Kind of a close call at the moment. If we go back to KELOLAND Live Doppler, what Brian's looking at right now is that display, and you do see that the storms are moving up out of Union County and headed toward Lincoln County. And now when it says velocity on there, what he's looking at the winds inside the cloud.
Yeah, and there is wind there as we still are tracking that. So the warning, again, continues for Lincoln County, southeastern Turner, embedded some gusty winds and also, to some degree, a little hail. Let's bring up the very latest on that hail tracker as that comes up in line here, too. Again, you can see these white freckles there. Those are individual locations where hail would be located at the present moment. Most of this has been nickel, quarter size, but again, we just coming off of what we just experienced, we're still going to cover at least a little bit of this moving up into portions of the Sioux Falls area.
Yeah, that red blob you're looking at, that's what you're looking at from Sioux Falls looking down to the southeast. That is the darkness you see in the clouds. That is the thunderstorm that's now coming through Lincoln County, primarily headed through northwest Iowa, but the far western edge of that thing could be coming toward the Sioux Falls metro area. At least it's going to be kind of a close call as to whether or not that happens.
We did get a report of 70-mile-an-hour winds now out of Sioux City with that line.
That's out of Sioux City.
And that now has, it's making its way up toward Lamar's, but look where it's going. You can see Sioux Center, Orange City, it's got at least the chance of getting that far north. And obviously it's been growing. Beersford South, there's a lot of heavy rain on Interstate 29 with that very strong storm. And again, pockets of strong winds there too. I don't have any confirmed numbers coming out of Clay County on wind, but it is a strongly worded warning there too as we watch that again moving up from the south. And given the environment here today, we have to take all of those pretty seriously.
All right, we're still looking at, we've been getting so many damaging wind reports coming in during the day today. Widespread damage across the KELOLAND area. We've seen lots of strong wind gusts, damaging wind gusts. And what we have right now is a strong line of thunderstorms, some hail, some strong winds, but not quite the strong gust winds we had earlier, the ones that did give us, unfortunately, considerable wind damage across the eastern part of the KELOLAND area. But that area in yellow, the flashing box there, that is where you see the latest thunderstorm warning. And it does go up into Lincoln County in southeastern South Dakota. Right around Beersford is the heart of it right now. Probably some hail embedded in that line. And as Brian was just mentioning, we have been picking up some reports of strong winds out of those cells.
Yeah, and we're still tabulating, of course, as we recap the damage that we've had tonight. There's been significant amounts of this. Of course, those are things we're going to be dealing with throughout the evening. But bringing up northwest Iowa again, even now, the rotated, at least by the Correctionville Fire Department. And that's outside of our coverage area, but it's moving north, and so, again, that southern flank has to be watched. Beersford, you are experiencing some heavy rain. Certainly there are some pockets of hail around there, but at this point, I would be curious, Jay, if that wind, again, comes up from Clay County and how gusty that gets here.
Mm-hmm. Right now, we do have a little bit of wind gust activity. And if you're just joining us again, this is the scene we have. We are under both a severe thunderstorm watch, Sioux Falls, in the southern part of KELOLAND, the T colors on your screen. It was rated as a particularly dangerous situation, tornado watch. Pretty rare around these parts. And earlier we were looking at some wind gusts over 100 miles an hour. We're still seeing wind gusts, but not quite of that magnitude. The other issue has been the tornado watch areas north of Highway 14. You see the red areas on your screen. That's until 10 o'clock tonight. We have seen several tornadoes, in fact, confirmed tornadoes and damaging tornadoes as well up in the northeastern part of South Dakota, along with those Castlewood, I believe, right, Brian?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Castlewood a bit earlier where there was damage reported around the school, I understand. And so the tornado watch is in effect until 10 o'clock tonight. Though most of that first line of thunderstorms, the one that did provide or that did cause the tornado watch, that one, most of that line has now moved to the north, moved kind of out of South Dakota into northwest, I should say not northwest Iowa, but western Minnesota and North Dakota. So here's the big picture again. Most of the thunderstorm warnings are now in Minnesota out of the first line, so that's shifted to the east. Also, some stronger storms have shifted up into North Dakota, but the second line not given up yet. And as a result, we're watching those storms kind of headed toward the southern part of Sioux Falls. BK, let's look along with you. You're taking a look from Harrisburg, looking down on those storms, and what are you seeing there?
Yep, just the thickening clouds. Obviously here, some sharper lightning strikes are coming in view too. I see there to the south. So again, that's kind of looking down on the horizon toward Beersford and those folks down to the south. I think that tonight there will be additional areas of rain and wind, and obviously the hail threat that is maintained here. It's been an awfully busy night tonight with weather. I know some of you, of course, we're trying to regroup and collect our thoughts here on what's happening next. And typically we'll, stay on the air with tornado warnings. Obviously now we're at the point where we have some severe thunderstorms again with some wind. I would say right now our main threat is attached to that cell that's probably heading up into Sioux County. That really, to me, I would say is a fairly strong signature now of a damaging wind threat in Plymouth County, or at least getting into portions of Plymouth County, Iowa, up through Lamar's. And again, that can kind of rotate and clip our northwest Iowa counties. I see Sheldon now back in a new warning, and it runs up to about Rock Valley. So our talking points about wind remain in place. And I can't ignore, too, even at radar height, I know it's hard to justify all of this reaching the ground, but there's a lot of wind crossing over into Lincoln County again, at least at a height of about 2,000, 3,000 feet. There's an 80-mile-an-hour wind that's cruising through that cloud. So again, at the surface, 60-mile-an-hour winds at least can be expected here.
Yeah, that's what Brian is looking at right there. Again, that's velocity, that's wind movement inside of clouds, not necessarily on the ground, though when you have the unidirectional flow, a lot of times you get the momentum down to the ground, and so that's why we've been watching. That's been the signature ahead of those severe thunderstorms and the destruction we've seen a bit earlier in the day out of those storm cells. So there's your latest warning that is now posted.
Yes, and Lincoln County is in effect here until 8 o'clock. Storm edge now to Worthing. Okay,
Yep.
so and we do have some hail in there. That purple area indicated. Let me bring up that fact too, because we really didn't have much hail the first time, but there is some falling out of that. Most of it in the history of this has been primarily nickel or smaller. So it hasn't been a big hailstorm. The bigger hail is perhaps a little bit farther over here to northwest Iowa, but this will be the last round. Once we get through this, then we call it a night on severe weather. Then everything turns over to cleaning up damage. And we've mentioned these damage reports all evening, but there are many, many of these. We've collected at least 170 wind reports out of this single event, and that's a lot.
That's just kind of the tip of the iceberg that I'm afraid with pretty widespread. And a lot of our neighbors are going to need a lot of help over the next several days putting together homes and in some cases businesses we've heard about, and in some cases farmsteads that we've heard about, and a lot of places probably not having school tomorrow as well. Head toward the end of the school year here. That's a look at the big picture. Line number 1, that is the line that is now exited into Minnesota. There's a look at Harrisburg down to the south. Technically, this new warning does not include Sioux Falls. It includes Lincoln County, but it was very specific that they did not include the city of Sioux Falls itself in this warning.
Yeah, they came up just to the border there, and I can see their
cloud
thinking.
Right, lightning there.
Yeah, a lot of lightning in here. Again, that's the wall of. There's a little white in there. There's probably a little bit of a hail. Ooh, look at that.
I saw that one.
Now that's that sharp lightning I was talking about. Our lightning tracker system specifically calls out those big strikes, and the number of positive strikes is pretty high on that storm. So your potential for lightning hits is far greater on a storm like that it's a very electrically charged system tonight, at least in terms of the number of positively charged strikes, Jay.
All right, that's what's going on right now. Adam, what are you looking at over there? I think you've got some new information for us.
Yeah, well, we do have a report out of Jefferson, Union County, 79-mile-per-hour gust with the storms that just moved through that area. Also getting some reports from Marshall and McCook County, Hillhead and Montrose, respectively, 73 and 77 miles per hour with the storms that rolled on through there. Now it's a delayed report out of Tyndall and Bonham County talking about the earlier gusts estimated upward of 90 to 100 miles per hour.
All right, so there's the latest wind gust report out of Jefferson right there. This is out of this, I don't want to call it this, well, I'll call it 2B. We'll call this one 2A, round 2A and round 2B. So this is the stronger one, as Brian was saying. This is the one going to go through northwest Iowa, and the one probably not as strong going through the Lincoln County area on the south side of Sioux Falls. So those two things, we do have those two warnings which continue for the next few minutes as they make their way to the north. Here's the way that they've moved, and they've kind of moved rather quickly in a northerly direction. And BK now looking at some of the winds within the cloud level there.
Well, this is indicating to us at 2,000 feet up. Okay, so that would be like if you're looking at our KELOLAND television tower and you looked at the top of the tower, the wind at that height in the atmosphere is 75 miles per hour right now. That's data that's been consistently showing at cloud level some pretty gusty winds in here. I do not have any confirmed numbers like that. However, the way this evening has gone, we've been able to call out a few of these before we hear about them, and we just got that confirmation down at Elk Point. So some of this is probably reaching the ground, gusty winds, I'll put it that way. I would rather be a little bit, giving you a couple new pieces of information just to let you know that there is another increase in a bump in wind coming up from the south, and some of that is being indicated here as we speak. Now, let me go to our hail tracker. Again, that's indicating another swath of hail, And that looks a little more organized. Now that's just due north of Beersford. Okay, so it's halfway between Worthington and Beersford, or Worthing, I should say, and Beersford. Again, let me loop the radar. There it is. Again, that's coming up, and it looks to me like that is going to head, probably gets up here just west of Canton within the next few minutes based on how fast these storms are moving. Again, if you look back at 7 o'clock, so that was an hour ago, or just about, I guess, 40 minutes ago, storms moving very quickly to the northeast. Let's do a storm tracker. We haven't done that for a little while, and since we're on the air with this, we'll peg this one again, moving to the northeast, and it's moving every bit of about 50 or so. So again, that would peg a couple communities here. Let's see if we can bring up a couple of these here. Schindler, Rowena could eventually get involved with some of this. Sharp lightning, some hail, and some very gusty winds at the present moment here. And these have all been fast movers tonight. There's not really anything that's been slow. Everything has had very quick, rapid movement to it. So it's always good to be prepared for the next dousing rains and everything coming in. Harrisburg on the edge of that. You can see Valley Springs by 8:03. Harrisburg at 7:46. So I guess we should probably, in fact, we'll show that live camera again.
Yeah, you can watch that coming right into Harrisburg. We'll see if there's any hail. And it does appear that hail is going to be a concern in Harrisburg.
Yeah, there's a chance of that, obviously, with all of that wall of precipitation coming up from the south. So at this point, we're not going to see a whole lot of definition of that. But again, we can kind of collect our thoughts here, and it looks like, yeah, even a tinge of, from what I can see, at least on the radar picture here, or at least the cloud line too, a lot of intense lightning here occurring just to the south of Harrisburg. So that lightning counter, this is the product that we show sometimes, and look at all of that.
I have a hunch we might see some brief heavy rain out of this also.
There is, yeah. And look at that. That's a product that normally the concentration of positive strikes is not that high. So this is very loud. This is a storm with a lot of really tremendous thunder and lightning. Very powerful strikes are coming down, obviously kind of driven by the system itself here. So Canton, you're right in the middle of this. Coming up here toward Canton, looks like there is some hail there too, and obviously we'll continue to watch all of this here coming together here tonight. Jay?
You can see at the top of your screen there you have the Empire Mall right there, so it's just south of Sioux Falls right now, and the suspicion is those areas are going to be containing some hail. But also, if we have any indication, judging about what we saw in Sioux City, there was hail mixed in with some heavy rain, and the number of lightning strikes would lend further credence to that. Adam, do you have some information over there that you're looking at?
Yeah, well, two things. One, we have been talking about some of these confirmed wind reports that we've been seeing as of late. Going back in time a little bit to Pierpont, we have mentioned the severe thunderstorms up there. They came in with a confirmed gust of 81 miles per hour as those storms rolled through during that time. But they've been also looking at the rainfall rate that have been coming through with the storms in Lincoln County. And what you're seeing there are these really bright shades of purple and borderline white. That is a lot of heavy rain. And just to give a little bit of an example of the rainfall rate now, full disclosure, this is not what we are seeing at the ground. This is just indicating how heavy this is falling. We're talking about rain falling at the rate, if it kept up, of over 7 inches per hour.
At least it's moving pretty fast. It's not going to be. It's not going to be over for now.
But yeah, just
it just means it's heavy rain. Yeah,
just a lot of heavy rain over there. So visibility is going to be significantly compromised.
Yeah. And are you looking at Harrisburg now again? Or?
We went to Sioux Falls just to kind of pull the view out a little bit, but there's your intense thunderstorm ongoing in Lincoln County. So again, we've got a few of these views. Obviously, the thing too tonight is we've lost connections to some of these cameras that we normally would show because the first storm ended up taking out the power or some of those connection factors there. So again, that's our view from downtown. Let me see if I can bring that Harrisburg.
Yeah, you can hear some thunder again in Sioux Falls. So
yeah, there's the rain starting in Harrisburg again. So again, quite a strong storm, severe thunderstorm warning remaining in effect for Lincoln County. And it's time to, get back inside. If anybody's out trying to clean up any damage, you're definitely going to want to do that as this storm is quickly moving in from the south here, and indicative of what we're seeing here on radar. tonight. I do want to bring up this view right here just to kind of get our bearing straight on where we're at here. The strongest of that cell, by the way, in Lincoln County, that's the hail core right there west of Canton. See all that purple in there? That is quite a bit of hail. So again, that's unfortunate, as that does take out at least some of the car damage. You can talk about that again. Hopefully at this point not tremendously big hail, but there's some in there. I will bring up too just our latest on that wind. We've been checking in on this quite a bit. Not a lot of confirmation on anything big as far as huge winds, but we can go from anywhere from 50, 60, 70 mile an hour winds. Just got an update. Let me recalibrate that again here. And again, these numbers pop up, and it's getting closer and closer to Sioux Falls, and there's still some wind at the cloud layer, so we are mindful of that as that's coming in, not just in one spot. There's actually some other hot spots of wind here down farther toward Beersford.
Yeah, Adam was looking at something there.
Yeah, they just expanded the severe thunderstorm warning from Lincoln County to now include Minnehaha County until 8:30 p.m. This will also go for parts of Lyon County, Osceola, Rock County in Minnesota, Nobles, Pipestone. This is going to at least include portions of the Sioux Falls area, 70-mile-per-hour gusts, half-dollar-sized hail. This is going to be up toward east side Sioux Falls, Brandon, within the next about 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, this 70-mile-an-hour wind threat seems to be the deal now. We've been kind of watching. Here we go again. This is Harrisburg now, and now we've got wind and rain, so this has come up very quickly as we've been speaking within the last 45 minutes. This started south of Vermilion and Sioux City, and now here it is all the way into southern Sioux Falls and Harrisburg. Again, not as intense as the first line. I want to be clear about that. But still, a 70-mile-an-hour wind is a lot. And if you have any hail with it, it's going to be blowing, of course, with the wind as well. So that's something we did not experience with the first line. We didn't really have hail. No. But there may be some of that, and we're going to watch that carefully, Jay, as this system unfolds here.
Trying to tell if I can see some hailstones there or not. Looks like there might be
some big raindrops for sure. Yeah, it's kind of blurry, but, a lot of lightning. And obviously,
right there.
Yeah, you can see here, too, everything's kind of, wow.
Whoa.
Look at that. See, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. That kind of lightning comes out of that cloud. If you're in Sioux Falls and you're outside trying to do any kind of cleanup, you got to get in now. This is a sharp lightning event, and we expect that that's going to move into Sioux Falls with some sharp strikes of lightning. So it's time to kind of wrap up any cleanup that you're doing, get back inside, let this one go by, and then we'll reevaluate after that. But there's been numerous very sharp lightning strikes with that, Jay.
Yep. There's a view downtown Sioux Falls. All you see the darker skies to the south. Now starting to get some of those lightning strokes coming up from the south. And here's a look back at what Brian's looking at in Harrisburg. And we may have just, there we go.
Yep.
I was afraid we lost a connection there again.
Yeah, a lot of rain, heavy rainfall rates. That's another big component to this storm, too, as it's coming up from the south. The first one really didn't produce as much heavy rain, of course, but we'll watch this. And, of course, there's a little wind there, too. We'll just continue to gauge that as this goes through. Let's go back to radar coverage here. KELOLAND, live Doppler HD, radar network, and as we put up the full view here, there again is the storm, and the extension now of the severe thunderstorm warning now does include the Sioux Falls metropolitan area. That includes Rock County, Minnesota, Lyon County, Iowa. Then there's a separate system down in Sioux County, and that is affecting Remsen, Marcus, Paulina. That's going to be rolling northeast. That has its own wind damage with that. But at this point, the storm cell moving into Canton. And Jay, if we could bring up our hail tracker too here, as that cell really has more of that this time. There's the track of the hail. So as we've been watching that coming up from Vermilion to Beersford, and now just moving into these areas west of Canton. And one thing I will tell you, though, at least at this moment, one advantage to our Doppler radar system is we have the ability to track these hail cores as they form and fall. So see how this one here developed, and then this little white area, I'll even label that. So that's your hail. But look what just happened. It just fell out of that storm. So maybe it regroups. It can do that easily. But that's kind of the latest scan here is around Canton. There's a lot of heavy rain. And then let's check in with the wind product again. Again, the warning at this point is for the possibility of 70-mile-an-hour winds. So if we're going to look at wind, now I can tell you, okay, we better go to Harrisburg. Right now, this is coming in, and that is now picking up. We're picking up on the Doppler 70 to 80-mile-an-hour wind. Let's go live. There's Harrisburg coming in now, and it is picking up wind speed there quite a bit. Again, we're going to tilt the camera over just a little bit here. And
visibility near zero.
Yeah, it is very strong storm.
Pounding rain there.
Yep, it is hard to see much. And again, that is a live view. We can't see a whole lot here, but I can tell you that that's a very strong storm. It is a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Harrisburg right now. And it appears that the likelihood of 70-mile-an-hour winds is coming to pass. We've been speculating about that on radar. We've been talking about these winds in pockets, and indeed we are getting some of that here now, moving into southern Sioux Falls. So again, that's where we're at. And Jay, you're panning out the radar view. Again, Canton is also included in the severe thunderstorm warning as these powerful winds are moving back across Lincoln County and now extending into Sioux Falls. We're getting some sharp lightning and thunder here at the studios in downtown Sioux Falls as we speak. And I know we can bring up our live camera here in Sioux Falls. That's 41st Street, obviously the west side of town. Not quite directly in the path of that, or at least a little bit more on the edge. But if we go and we'll pan that view over here to the south and look toward the Empire Mall and then eventually down 41st Street. And it's a lot of dark skies again, isn't it? And the strong storm, again, moving into the southern part of Sioux Falls as we speak here. And again, that's 41st and Louise, and being aware of any cleanup that's going on. I know folks are busy here. There's just been so much going on tonight. So make sure that if you are out there cleaning up, you take a break. We got to go inside as this storm is coming in. Let me give the high-resolution view here. And Canton North, that's a heavy rain with the wind. Let's look at the latest wind gust. Okay, so I'm going to pinpoint a couple of things here, and we're going to go through this. This is the T exit on Interstate 29. We're getting some of these numbers coming in above 70. So again, when we look at that at cloud level, we're probably going to shave a few numbers off that a little bit, but still the potential for 70-mile-an-hour winds. We look between Harrisburg and Schindler now. That's a pretty high number. By the way, I'm registering that 75-mile-an-hour wind. That's 300 feet, Jay, off the deck. 300 feet, so that's not far. So that tells us it's pretty likely that we're getting wind gusts over 70 in the 85th Street area. Again, this is our view from downtown. Let me see if we've still got connection to Harrisburg. I know that's been a little shaky here with the latest view here. And so far it looks like, again, these storm cells are moving through pretty quickly. Here's Harrisburg. I'm going to get the right button. There it is. Again, it's shaking the cameras. A lot of heavy rain. Obviously, with this in mind here, that's also really restricting your visibility. So, again, just hunker down as this storm is moving through, mostly with wind and some degree of hail, although that at the present moment seems like it dumped out some hail south of Harrisburg, and still moving here to the north and northeast at a very fast clip. If you're in Beaver Creek, Larchwood, you're in the path of this. And again, I want to make sure we're clear about the wind that we're monitoring between T and Harrisburg. This is a brand new update coming into the storm center. This is our Viper technology, and it is still measuring some pretty high numbers there, Jay, just west of Harrisburg. That's coming in to the southern neighborhoods of Sioux Falls, and that can do some damage when it's above 70 miles per hour.
Yeah, our live cam down in Harrisburg still showing the rain is accompanied by those strong winds. You see the sky cam shaking there, lots of lightning, and that's what's coming toward the Sioux Falls area as you're looking at right now. Still not, well, let's take a look at what's going on down on 41st Street in Sioux Falls. Probably getting some rain down there right now, a bit on the heavier side. as well. Let's take a look at that. Here we go. And we do have the rain that's falling right now in front of Empire Mall. I'm just zooming it around there to show you. The winds are picking up a little bit. You can see the trees shaking there a little bit on 41st Street. Traffic still moving about, but the heavier rain is now coming into the city.
Yeah, so there is certainly that component there on the south side of Sioux Falls. Let's bring up the latest here on coverage on radar. Again, you can see the swath of rain with this storm. And one other factor, too, all of the lightning strikes. Just within this storm alone, it's been a very powerful electrical storm. That's big yellow lines there. Those are all very intense. In fact, the lightning tracker actually measures the strength of all of those. So that's why those lines are all different in the lengths there. But bottom line is, it's been a pretty powerful storm in terms of that, and along with that, these strong winds, which we're still monitoring. I do want to go back to that if you're just joining us here as this latest round of storms comes into Sioux Falls. Again, this is a wind measurement product that we bring up during severe weather coverage. It shows us how strong the winds are on the Doppler level, at least the radar scan. It comes in, shows us numbers around 70 plus or minus, and that leads us to, believe that we have some very gusty winds, obviously, ongoing here.
Hey, BK, the Maisonette and Worthing just reported 76 mile an hour gust about 10 minutes ago. So that's
76.
So that's consistent with that.
Well, it shows you how that accuracy of this Doppler scan, it's really been showing this, so now we're getting confirmation of that. So we're going to assume coming up right now, 85th Street, 69th Street, we're running right there on the southern side of Sioux Falls. Minnesota Avenue East, I would probably say over to Schindler, up to 57th Street, there's going to be powerful winds that are coming in right now. And that's just flat out 70 plus mile an hour wind. It looks like the southeast side of the city is going to receive the majority of that as we speak here. So be in your shelter.
Can we see reflectivity there? I think we're getting some pretty heavy rainfall as well.
Heavy rain.
There we get all this heavy rain now, kind of the southeastern edge of Sioux Falls. As we said, this thing was coming up towards Sioux Falls, probably getting kind of the eastern edge, and that's what's happening. It's eastern Sioux Falls is getting the heavier rain right now and the strongest winds, and that's why that severe thunderstorm warning continues for Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County until 8:30 or 32 minutes from now.
Yeah, so it is that storm in particular. The others downstream towards Sioux Center, obviously remaining strong. Look at this. We've got new storms that have fired up around Howard and Salem now.
Those all within the last about 15 or so minutes. They basically came up from nothing to something.
Yeah, it's still a well, you have so much tremendous energy in the air today, folks. It's just, these things are still popping up even to the west of Sioux Falls. And I will bring up again, I know in Salem, we've been talking about news reports out there, the damage. So when you have these additional storms, just kind of take shelter, let them go by. These lightning strikes are pretty severe or pretty strong, and we want you to stay safe inside a structure here, or just get in the car and make sure the windows are rolled up. That offers good protection from lightning when you have a lot of it. And there's 700 strikes in this little view here in Lincoln County alone. Not in it's been happening pretty quickly. So again, you mentioned before here, Worthing, 76 mile per hour wind measured 10 minutes ago, 12 minutes ago. Let's bring up that Doppler radar velocity or the wind numbers that we're looking at. I'm going to take the lightning off. We're going to look at this again. This is Schindler. This is coming in basically up Cliff Avenue. We can sample the sky there and look at these numbers. 72, 73. There's a lot of wind in there. And again, that's coming up through the southern and southeastern communities, or the parts of Sioux Falls here in that area. Even the T and Lenox area. Look at this. We got more wind with this. There's a little pocket here that pops up, 75.
Now, can you give me a live cam there? Let's take a look at what's going on. Harrisburg, you can see the rain not as heavy right now, but the sky cam, the live cam shaking there and all of that wind. And on 41st Street in Sioux Falls, got the rain coming down, a bit of a breeze there. You can see the folks driving around it, so it's not not halting traffic or anything at this time, but we do have some fairly good winds going there at the present time. Here's a look at downtown Sioux Falls, looking down to the south, and you see we've seen the rain come into the Sioux Falls area. It's now overspreading downtown, and let's see what's going on out toward Falls Park. You can see that it's raining there as well. Again, we have winds, not quite the destructive winds earlier, but we got some pretty good wind gusts, as Brian was saying, maybe some 70-mile-an-hour gusts in some of these places, and that's what's been recorded over the last hour or so. Out of these storms pushing through southeastern portions of South Dakota, coming also through northwest Iowa, and we should probably go see what's going on in northwest Iowa as well, because the thunderstorms over there might have a little bit more heft to them at the present time. Let's go to reflectivity and just see what they say there.
Yep, and there's the line of storms, as you mentioned, Jay. It's moving through, and we're just going to look through, again, all these communities, Orange City, Hospers, Paulina. Damaging winds are possible along that line of severe weather. Again, you can see the intensity of the reds there and the association with that severe weather. So again, that's pulling through Sioux County, Iowa, severe thunderstorm warning until 8:15. Also for O'Brien County until 8:15. Farther up the line, Lyon County, severe thunderstorm warning until 8:30. That's also now included for Rock County, Minnesota. And now looking here into Lincoln as well, although now the storm threat continues to push east. Obviously, we're watching the winds that are on the backside of this storm, and more to say, I'm sure, on that as things come through. This is that report as of 7:41. 76-mile-an-hour wind report with that particular cell. And there's still a lot going on with wind there. Adam?
Yeah, you're talking about all of the heavy rain that's been coming down in portions of northwestern Iowa. This is another look at that rainfall rate product that we had talked about a little bit earlier. Take a look toward Klondike, Larchwood as well. Notice those very, very deep shades of purple that have been coming along there. Still seeing some very, very heavy rain, even southeast of Harrisburg, just north of Canton. Very heavy rainfall there. And also, you notice those two storms we have mentioned before. We have been seeing some heavy rain out of that toward Howard, Salem, Canastota, and Bridgewater. Be mindful of those storms, those sub-severe in nature, are still putting out a lot of rain in a short amount of time on top of what we've already been seeing over the last several hours. So we are going to continue to keep an eye at least on that potential to see poor visibility just due to the hefty amounts of moisture still in the atmosphere fueling these downpours in northwestern Iowa.
Yeah, and it continues to be kind of a secondary threat, but certainly it is part of the equation here tonight. Well, folks, we are, of course, we've been covering these storms on air continuously since just after 4 o'clock this afternoon. Obviously, we still have some strong weather. We want you to stay tuned to our coverage. What we're going to be doing now, it's kind of changing our format a little bit here as we convert to some severe thunderstorm warnings that have some pockets of wind, but we don't see it quite as severe as it once was. Obviously, we can jump in at any moment and give updates here, Jay, obviously throughout the evening, but it has been generally pushing here through and now into southwest Minnesota with some pockets of strong winds. So we're going to obviously continue to follow all the developments. Of course, our news crews are out this evening gathering all of the damage reports, and we're having a collection of that ready to go for our 10 o'clock news broadcast.
Yeah, we'll have a lot to report. We've got all of our teams out in the field collecting the video, as Brian says. We've got a lot of pictures from you. Thank you for sending them to us at KELOLAND.com. This has been a widespread day of destructive weather across eastern South Dakota. Maybe it may turn out to be the biggest one in my memory, actually, because it is so widespread.
Well, a lot of communities affected tonight. So if you are in those areas, of course, we will continue to unpack that information. We want you to stay safe. Obviously, with the storms that are ongoing, the lightning threats, the heavy rain threats, those types of things we acknowledge. Well, of course, our Storm Tracker app is going to have lots of information still streaming there online at KELOLAND.com as well.
And Scot Mundt has been helping out at KELOLAND.com, putting out updates and stuff. We should mention he's there as well.
Yes.
For Brian Karstens, for Adam Rutt, I'm Jay Trobec from the Storm Center at KELOLAND TV. Watch the bottom of your screen for the updates. In the meantime, we'll see you back here with a complete report on today's activities on KELOLAND News at 10.